Okay, go ahead, Tammy.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Manhattan Community Board 1 full board session. I am Tammy Meltzer, Chair of Community Board 1. This is our February meeting. We're going to kick off the public session, and just as a reminder, everyone gets 2 minutes to speak. We do have a timer that is up, and we will be muting people. I'm so sorry, there's nothing personal about it. It's not in my hands, I'm not the muter, but you will get muted. And with that, we're going to start with our public session and then move to our government representatives, and then we move into the business session. All right, so with that, I'd like to recognize Christopher Marte. Chris, I believe you're here speaking on behalf of Neighbors United Below Canal tonight.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can, Chris. Thanks. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you all. Hope everyone's well. I just wanted to let everyone know that tomorrow our oral arguments will be before the appellate court. This is a decision that we've been fighting for some time now, almost a year, where we won our initial lawsuit, but the city decided to appeal it. It'll be tomorrow at 2 p.m. Since all these hearings and rulings are done virtual now, I'm going to share the YouTube link if anyone's interested in watching it. And typically it takes a few weeks, or sometimes up to a few months, for these decisions to come out. And when they do, I'll follow up at next month's meeting. In addition, NUBC is a co-sponsor for a rally, a solidarity rally against anti-Asian violence this Saturday, February 27th at 1 p.m. It'll be at 26 Federal Plaza. And so if anyone wants to come and show solidarity, that'll be awesome. So thank you guys for hosting this and always being super supportive of NUBC and this lawsuit.
Thank you very much. Wow, that was fast. All right, moving from Chris, we're going to go to Sydney Clarkson. Sydney?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
So I'm a member of Battery Park City for Black Lives Matter. New York communities must redefine public safety and protect those targeted by surveillance, policing, and punishment. Poor people and people of color disproportionately face the police's fear-inducing and discretionary practices. I urge Manhattan Community Board 1 to submit a statement opposing police brutality and the racist nature of this institution and committing MCB1 to keeping its people safe. From the murder of George Floyd to the storming of the Capitol, myriad incidences reveal how law enforcement remains prejudiced and unfettered. I lived in San Francisco at the time of the George Floyd protests. At a San Francisco protest on the Golden Gate Bridge, the police were strictly instructed to only ensure the safety of protesters and pedestrians. As protesters jumped barriers of the bridge to walk in the vehicle lanes, police halted oncoming traffic. Protesters were prepared for arrests and violence, which attests to the inherent anxiety imposed by the appearance of police at protests. But there were no confrontations, and San Francisco demonstrated how protests may remain peaceful when police remain in the background, if at all. As New York City responded to police brutality and structural racism, police officers met some of these demonstrations with excessive and violent tactics. Police replicated the very violence that spawned protesters' public outrage. MCB1 should ensure that its constituents may live without fear and assemble in peace by 1, formally condemning police brutality, 2, publicizing alternatives to calling the police, and 3, demanding that if police must be present at demonstrations in its neighborhoods, the officer's responsibility is to abstain from physical force or arrest, to support the people's First Amendment right to assemble, and to protect the people. MCB1 must be a proponent of anti-racist measures by blocking discriminatory and unsafe practices of the NYPD. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sydney. I know you have a couple of colleagues who are with you tonight, all speaking on the same, I don't know if you're all speaking on the same topic. I know Pat Gray and Taylor Banning are here. We'll go to Pat if, Pat Gray.
Tammy, for some reason, I'm not able to unmute or mute them.
Okay.
That option is somehow disabled.
For Pat, Pat Gray, if you can dial back in or log back in, it doesn't seem like you have your audio connected. That would be great. We're going to move from Pat. Hopefully she can fix that and come back to us. Taylor Banning. Taylor, you're
Hi.
unmuted. Welcome. Hi.
Thank you. I'm unmuted now. Thank you.
Yep.
I'm calling in to inform the board about a Black History Month virtual event in the district this Saturday, February 27th at 4 p.m. As Black Gotham and other historians have noted, much of NYC's history of white violence and anti-Black oppression took place in our district, including, colonization of Native Americans, the slave trade market, the formation of Wall Street and the stock market. In fact, nearly 100% of slave trade markets in NYC took place in our district. So did the first Black-owned homes. So this event is meant to be a conversation for all of us, led by New York native and psychologist Dr. Anika, who runs a company called Race Positive. In this conversation, we hope we'll be able to ask the question, what is the role of this history on our city and our country's economy then and now? And what, if any, is our role as a community board, as a community in CB1 today to address this past? So I can put the event in the chat, and if the board's willing to share it, we'd love to have our community join and participate in this conversation. It's really just meant to be a dialogue so we can talk about how we're feeling and about this history and really untrap it, as Kamau Ware put in his presentation at the Waterfronts and Culture at Black History Month this month. Thank you all.
Thank you, Taylor, very much. We're going to move from Taylor to Sydney. I see you signed in twice. We've got you once. So then we'll go see if Pat Gray is back. Pat is back and able to be unmuted. I see her audio is connected. Pat, welcome. Go
Hi.
ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak this evening. At its September 2020 meeting, Community Board 1 passed a resolution supporting the restoration of full funding to the Civilian Complaint Review Board, recognizing that police oversight is essential so that problem police members who take inappropriate or egregious actions can be identified and held accountable. This month, on February 4th, the mayor's office announced new guidelines meant to streamline and standardize discipline in the nation's largest police force, unquote. The CCRB and the NYPD signed a memorandum pledging to follow this new discipline matrix. The new guidelines call for harsher penalties for violations involving excessive force, making false statements, profiling. They also give CCRB greater access to officer records, including employment history. It sounds like a step in the right direction on the part of the sprawling enterprise of the NYPD. With its 5 stakeholder unions and 34,000 plus police officers within 54,000 employees. But the kicker is that the police commissioner remains the final arbiter. CCRB, the oversight agency, is itself oversighted by the enterprise it was created to oversee. At a recent panel discussion featuring heads of police oversight agencies, CCRB Chairman Fred Davey responded to the question, what is one key issue that could make the NYPD better? His answer was the CCRB having final disciplinary authority. Given the commanding role that the mayor's disciplinary matrix secures for the police commissioner Shea, I urge CB1 to pass a resolution registering strong objection to the plan, and further to share the resolution with all other New York City community boards whose communities are also impacted by poor police oversight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for all of that, Pat, and thanks for rejoining us, I say. We're gonna move down to New Yorkers for Wired Tech, Susan Peters. After Susan, Mariano needs to speak for some event announcements. And then
Yes.
after Mariano, we'll go to Justine. Go ahead, welcome.
Can you hear me?
I can, Susan. Thank you.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm a longtime resident of New York City. 2 years ago, I audited a basic physics course at Hunter College and began to understand more about the technology used all around us, such as the cell phones. Then I found out the city of New York had approved all in one shot the installation of 11,500 wireless antennas. 8,200 of them have already been installed in all of the 5 boroughs. But the public is not informed of the high level of radiation coming from them. An electrical engineer who works with my group quoted this: "A typical antenna in our public space outputs between 15,000 and 75,000 times more power than is necessary to make a 5-bar cellular connection." News about the health dangers to humans from this technology are censored from the corporate press, but some governments are fighting back. New Hampshire issued a report, 15 recommendations. I'll tell you a few of them. 1, quote, "The FCC has not exercised due diligence by not setting exposure limits that protect people's health." 2, schools and public libraries should migrate away from wireless connections. Hardwire connections do not subject children to microwave radiation. 3, the signal strength measurements should be carried out by independent contractors of each antenna and reported to the public. That's not being done now. 4, cell phones and all wireless devices sold should come with software that stops the phone from radiating against the body, which would remove the problem of brain cancers. Please check our website, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on, Mariano James, you can unmute yourself. And you still have 2 minutes in the public session.
Might not be on. I'm looking for her.
Yeah, I don't see.
So Justine, thank you so much. You're going to be next, so you're on. Go for it. And
Okay.
please clarify what you're representing today versus
Sure.
where you're.
Yes, that's fair. See, for Battery Park City, not speaking as my official capacity as a community board member. I'm here to talk about affordability in Lower Manhattan, and I'm going to be talking about and referencing once again Class 1 and Class 2 homes as they are referenced in respect to real estate taxes. I would like to. There's a very big disparity between Class 1 and Class 2 homes are taxed, especially in Manhattan. And it's a very complicated issue. I think it needs to be set, and I'd like to call on this board to have this set before the Quality of Life Committee, which seems to be addressing all of Manhattan, all issues beyond Battery Park City, because this is not just a Battery Park City issue, it's a Manhattan issue. The discrepancy is that Class 1 homes, which is what your parents, well, I say your parents, my parents had in a little house in Queens with a picket fence, their taxes, no matter what their house was assessed at, no matter what the assessment, the taxes were increased only 2% a year. Knowable and plannable, they could plan ahead for they were going to pay year after year after year. Class 2 homes in Battery Park City, as well as all of Manhattan, have no cap on how much is paid. One issue is the amount of the assessed values of the properties, but the other issue is no matter what the property is assessed at, the increase in the amount of taxes that are paid are contained. There's no cap. That issue needs to be addressed legislatively. This board should be collaborating with every board in Manhattan to address this issue, and I'd like to put that, and I'm really calling upon this board to step up and help me do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Justine. I'm looking to see if Mariana is back. She's not back yet. So we're going to keep moving on. In the public session, again, we're going to go from Pat. you speaking tonight in the public session, Pat Moore?
No.
Okay,
no.
sorry. That's okay. It's fine. I'm going through the sign-in sheet. Let me keep going.
I'm just going to let you know. Mariano was texting me. She's not on the line. She's on another call that she can't get off of. So sorry, is what she said.
No which way to pull. Alrighty. So what we would normally do in the public session is we then go to the elected reps, and after that we close out and we start our business session with our elected officials for here. So let's go to our elected representatives. We're going to start with Hannah Weinerman from Congressman Nedler's office. And Hannah, you have a couple more minutes than the regular public session. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. I'm going to actually be pretty brief tonight. So I just wanted to bring your attention to two things that are coming. So one, Congressman Nather's office just put out a newsletter about tax filing resources and assistance available. So I know that some people have questions. There are free e-filing tools. Depending on your income, you may have some entirely free preparation opportunities available. So that's all listed on our website and in the newsletter that was just sent out. Additionally, the PPP program for those small business loans, they're going to basically reopen the PPP loans for, I think, a 2-week period. It's geared towards businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 20 employees. It's really just trying to make sure that there is, a more equitable distribution of the program and making sure the monies get to all the businesses that really need it. So again, the program, that application starts tomorrow at 9 a.m. So I just want to flag it for that. If you have, again, specific questions, feel free to call our office. I'll put that information in the chat. The bigger stuff that's going on in DC, we're slowly starting to reintroduce some legislation that we passed in the last Congress that are of real big importance. So obviously things like HR 1 and the Voting Rights Act and the Equality Act, those are slowly getting into being reintroduced. This week, Congressman Nather, or I believe, reintroduced the Pregnancy Fairness Workers Act, which gives accommodations to pregnant workers, which is something that he's been shepherding for a long time. So I'll keep you posted on that. And then obviously on the forefront of everyone's mind is the COVID relief bill called the America Rescue Plan. So that is going to hopefully get passed in the coming weeks. Once it gets signed into law, I'm happy to come back at the next full board and go through some of the stipulations and make sure, again, all that will be updated on our website. So I will put my contact information in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And anybody, by the way, if you have not signed in yet, I'm going to ask the host to put a copy of the sign-in again into the chat. So everyone who is attending the meeting should be signed. Alrighty. Moving from Hannah, we're going to go to Lizzie Lee, State Senator Brian Kavanaugh's representative. Lizzie.
Hi, everyone. Sorry about that delay. It's great to see you all. As you guys are all probably anticipating, we are working very quickly to distribute the rent relief. As you all know, we have from the federal government been allocated $1.3 billion that we're using. Senator Kavanaugh is sponsoring the COVID Emergency Rental Assistance Program called CRAP. We're really hoping to get that introduced as soon as possible. But a brief overview, New Yorkers would be eligible for the program regardless of immigration status if these households are facing COVID-19 related hardships and housing instability, and income is below 80% of the median of their area, and up to a year of rent arrears and utility arrears would be paid. Of course, we're working with the city government to make sure that we're statutorily making this efficient as possible. So that's going to be on your radar very, very soon. And we are working diligently on, various other legislative tactics to restrict third-party delivery fees, for example, and to ensure that we're doing everything to ensure fair housing And with the eviction moratorium, if any of you guys need resources to access the standardized hardship declaration form, just please let us know. And of course, if anyone has DOL inquiries, any problems with getting their unemployment insurance, also just feel free to reach out to our staff as well. And that's it for me tonight.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lizzie. Moving on to Cora from Councilmember Chinn's office, and then Luke Wolf.
Hello, everyone. It's Cora from Councilmember Chin's office. On COVID, Councilmember Chin has co-chaired 2 hearings to conduct oversight on the vaccination rollout. She's pushing the administration to use senior centers as vaccination sites, to collaborate more with city agencies, and drastically improve the Vaccine Command Center and Vax for NYC web pages. We all know how difficult it is for the seniors to actually do anything online. Councilmember Chin also wrote a letter to the Mayor de Blasio, Commissioner Choksi, and DIFTR Commissioner, calling on the city to develop a comprehensive and equitable plan for citywide vaccination. On legislation, Councilmember Chin is working on legislation to expand the number of translators and interpreters within city agencies. She's currently also working on a letter to urge DCAS to administer civil service exams for interpreters and translators. It's budget season. Nonprofits do more important and wonderful work for our constituents. So Councilmember Chin's team reach out to all the nonprofits to make sure they file the applications for discretionary fund on time. Now that part is closed, but the capital funding for non-city groups are still open. For the Borough President funding is February 25th. For the City Council and the Department of Cultural Affairs, the deadline is March 25th at 5 p.m. E-waste. It's now illegal to discard electronics in the trash, so avoid the fine. Councilmember Chin co-sponsor an event. It's March 13. I'll put in the chat so you have the information. February is Black History Month celebration. Councilmember Chin is hosting an event this Thursday with African Burial Ground National Park to honor community members. Shout out to Marilyn James for her work together with other people in the district to celebrate Black History Month. So please do join us, and I'll put the information for you to RSVP. And thank you all for the work on behalf of district. Thank you, Tammy.
You're welcome, Cora, and please feel free, send us a whole flyer. We're happy to distribute it and support our amazing volunteers on the board.
Yeah, it's already submitted to Lucian. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, that brings us to Control Fingers Representative Luke Wolf.
Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. From our office, first this month, Stringer unveiled a comprehensive food security plan to combat hunger across New York City. So the COVID pandemic acutely highlighted food insecurity across New York, and today more than 1.6 million New Yorkers report being unable to afford food, which is 400,000 more than last year. So some of the things the controller's plan would do would, one, create a $25 million emergency food program to serve undocumented New Yorkers who have been unable to access the federally funded SNAP program due to their immigration status. 2, leverage community-based organizations to increase and improve SNAP outreach. 3, increase where and how EBT cards are used across New York City, and also focus on cultural appropriateness throughout our food system to help those with any restricted diets access the nutrition they need. The controller also released a plan this month really about strengthening public safety in New York City, and it's called a Blueprint for Enhancing Safety, Investing in Communities. It has 30 recommendations. I'm here now, but a few of the highlights are: 1, really taking a multi-agency and public health focused approach to community safety and transitioning some responsibilities away from the NYPD, addressing the near-term spike in crime with proactive strategies through community partners, improving discipline, transparency, and civilian oversight of the NYPD, ending the war on drugs, and changing some of the offenses that do not pose risk to community safety, And lastly, some operational and managerial reforms of the NYPD. And I invite you to go on our website and look at the full plan. And lastly, a couple updates on the education front. Number one, we're at something called the mid-year adjustment, which I know the community board, I think, addressed last month. So the controller sent a letter to Chancellor Carranza asking that schools be held harmless for changes in enrollment this year. We know that a number of schools, especially in District 2, have had drastic enrollment changes due to the pandemic, and we want to make sure those schools don't have to face mid-year budget cuts and give, in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars back to the DOE mid-year. The controller is also calling for increased Holocaust education. Some of this was supposed to happen last year after the stabbing in Monsey, New Jersey. We implemented it all. So really making sure, especially with the rise in hate crimes going on right now, that hate crime education and awareness is at the forefront. Just some of the updates from our office, and thank you all.
Wow, Luke, thank you. I am going to allow one more member of the public who signed on but didn't realize she had to sign in the attendance sheet. And that's Susan Ainsworth from Clarity MedHealth. I think it would be a disservice if we did not have her present today. So if we can look at the attendees and unmute Susan Ainsworth, please.
Hi, guys.
Hey, Susan, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak briefly. So I work with Clarity MedHealth. As some of you may be aware, we have set up 3 mobile rapid COVID-19 testing sites, all in Battery Park City. We have one in front of the Irish Hunger Memorial on the east side. We have one in front of the Police Memorial, and we just opened one at Pier A. So these are rapid antigen tests. This is part of the New York Forward program that what the state announced this past Friday. So these tests are really designed to try to encourage people to re-engage with the economy and to be able to have a little bit more peace of mind. We actually use an Access Bio test, which is a very highly ranked rapid test, and you get your results in 15 minutes through a HIPAA-approved patient portal. It's $25. This is not covered by the CARES Act, just to be specific. The CARES Act covers the PCR testing, but not this rapid testing. But if you have private insurance, you actually can submit for reimbursement. So we've been up for a couple of weeks throughout some snowstorms and some pretty breezy days, but we've tried to stay open. I think we only had one snow day where we were closed in front of the Police Memorial, and we certainly appreciate the support of Battery Park City and the residents. It's our hope that this can actually be a useful tool in reinvigorating and reanimating the neighborhood. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Really appreciate that. And can't miss the truck. If you see them by Pier A, it's super obvious. So with that, I believe Susan is the last from our public session. So we're going to close the public session. I asked if we could put the agenda up, and we welcome our public officials. We do have Gail Brewer with us tonight, which is awesome. Thank you, President Brewer, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And anytime you're ready.
All right, can you hear me now? You can hear me now.
We can, Gail.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So a few things. First of all, I think you know Governor's Island, which you have put in tremendous amounts of time. We did not support the proposal. We said no with conditions following some of your ideas, and I hope there is a lot more discussion about it. Just along the lines of comprehensive planning, I want to give Speaker Johnson credit. I mean, the hearing today on his proposal for comprehensive planning must have been 6 hours or 7 hours. I lost track. But he's trying, and I think there needs to be many changes and local input and so on. But at least somebody's talking about planning. And I think nobody knows better than Community Board Number 1 about that topic. I also want to just talk, the vaccine is on everybody's mind. It does seem when we had our 3 o'clock Tuesday meeting today, I actually heard from a couple of providers that they have vaccines and all people have to do is sign up. I have not heard that before. And so I want to say, I hope that this continues so that people are not spending hours on the websites, but it seems to me that's what's happening. The second thing we learned today, I think no surprise to you, is just really is a race against time between the vaccine and the variant. And a wonderful doctor at Columbia University made that very, very clear. There is also, still challenges in terms of those who are undocumented and in terms of them knowing that they do not have to provide immigration information or how to get they don't need to have any kind of health insurance, et cetera. So we're still running into some of those challenges, but it's, I think, on the right track. In terms of what are we doing about the affordable housing is an ongoing discussion. In the very near future, we will release the many months that we've been working on for our affordable housing task force. And I know you're dealing with hotels in your area. There is a discussion about in Manhattan, and this may be controversial, how can we turn some of these vacant hotels for sale that are for sale into permanent affordable housing, not transitional. So I just want to let you know I support that if it is an excellent nonprofit. My dream, and this is how it should be, would be half those who are homeless or formerly homeless and half people who just need affordable housing. So that is the mix that I think the community board should be pushing for. It has always worked in the past. You should not have a permanent that is completely formerly homeless. It should be a mixture, and that would be something that I hope you would bring up. I keep talking about these helicopters, but we are making some headway, much thanks to Congressman Nadler and to the work he's doing in Washington. But we have been in touch with mayors and council members. I've never talked to so many New Jersey mayors. They're all fabulous. It was interesting. One of them had his police commissioner with him, and he is the brother of our police commissioner here in New York City. So that I thought that was kind of interesting and special. In terms of seniors, working with the New York Academy of Medicine, which is always a pleasure. We just released a new age-friendly Manhattan to talk about the many issues faced by older New Yorkers. It is, if you get our newsletter, it is mentioned in it. But we did survey 1,000 with the Academy of Medicine, and we surveyed over 1,000 Manhattanites starting right before the pandemic and through it, and you get some ideas about what people are concerned about. I think many of us know, but it gives you a good listing. I also want to mention I said this before, but coming up soon, April 1st, the mayor is supposed to give to the governor everything about community police relations. And in the borough of Manhattan, we need ideas. I have some of my own, but I hope that you have had this discussion. The 5 borough presidents met with the head of the chief of patrol and others for quite some time. And one of the suggestions is to have the police community council, community boards, clergy, and business people in some form select the new commanders every 2 years in the precincts. That is going to start in Brooklyn. We'll see how it goes. I have some concerns about it, but again, please bring these topics up because they are ones that are going to be on the forefront in the near future. In terms of I heard the representative from Congressman Nadler's office talk about the funding that starts tomorrow for the small businesses. And then, of course, with Congressman Maloney, we had a press conference over the weekend talking about her and others' recovery bill. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of support coming from Washington and sometimes through the state, and we have to be very vigilant. We try to do that in our newsletter, making sure that people know. I am swamped with small businesses who are, about to go under, and this would be their life. But it isn't so easy always to fill out those forms, even with, Downtown Alliance helping or others. Downtown Alliance has been phenomenal during this pandemic. On February 25th at 6, we're doing a Stand Up Against Street Harassment forum. It's a virtual forum. The information is on our website. Everybody's welcome to join us. And we have gotten in a lot of those who are reapplying and new applicants with the community boards. I thank you. And we are also swamped with applications for funding, which is going to be more challenging because we never have enough. This is an important time. And I want to just mention Justine and the property tax because this is an ongoing issue. The fact of the matter is there are 4. There's the utilities, there's the commercial, there's what is single family where your parents grew up, and then of course there is a multifamily co-ops. And the group that gets hurt the most, as Justine stated, is the co-ops and the multifamilies. Those are the property taxes that are the buildings that hurt the most. But it has a lot to do with the fact that, you know, in the past, people in Queens, the civic associations did not want their property taxes increased. There's been lawsuits on this topic. There's been a task force on this topic. The mayor doesn't seem to want to deal with it. I assume it's going to go to the next administration. I don't know, but it is a very, there's a woman named Martha Stark, who is a professor, I believe at NYU. She and others could come and talk to you about it because it is complicated, a good topic to understand how the assessments work versus how the property tax works and what the possibilities are for the future. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Can I say something?
Pleasure. I was going to say, actually, because of the new way that we organize the community board sessions for 2021, if there are any board members who have questions for Manhattan Borough Brewer, please raise your hand. I know that Justine has one, so we'll start with Justine.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Gail, thank you for noting that. And I guess my only comment back is, yes, thank you for Martha Starr's information. I'm going to contact her and see if we can get her to come speak with us. But I totally appreciate the class 1 homes in Queens or all over New York State not wanting to have their taxes increased. I actually think that's a really bad idea because all you're going to do is give them the pain that we're having. I think the answer is really radically thinking outside of the box and not looking to real estate taxes to fill the budget gap. There's got to be a stop on it. And at the end of the day, my radical proposition is that we all get together and say they collect less money from real estate taxes.
I mean, I think that's a good topic. I'll get to the board some other people so you have a mixture. Because Martha Stark, professor, is the one who brought the lawsuit. So we
excellent. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Apologies about that. Justine, if you'll put your hand back down. We are in the business session, so I'm looking to see if board members have any questions.
Jill's hand is up.
Jill, full or public?
Public member.
Yeah, Jill. In the business session, only full board members usually go.
Sorry.
That's okay. I'm sorry. But you know what? Email me your question. We'll make sure that we get it answered. I'm hoping it's about housing and that Gail can help us.
Yep, it is.
Okay. Sorry about that. Alrighty. Gail, if I see no other questions from board members, I just want to say thank you so much. At Community Board 1, we appreciate the unbelievable amount of time you have spent, not only in our area, but with the constituents coming to our meetings. We see it, we know it, and we are highly appreciative. I just wish you could run and stay.
Thank you very much, Danny. You too. Congratulations.
Thank you. So on that, I don't see Assembly Member News contact person is here. Claudia, is Assembly Member News joining this evening?
Hey, Tammy. No, she will not be able to join, but I will be here on her behalf. If it's okay, would I be able to give my board report right now, or is it going to be too late?
So in the business session, and the way we now have it organized, which started in January, is that all of the elected reps go during the public session. Once we start the business session, it is only elected officials. If you have a link, I am happy to share it. And I would normally say I could be flexible, but then I feel bad for the other reps who had to go during the public session. You know what I mean? I'm kind of feeling like, I know, you know, you come all the time and we appreciate your hard work. And all right, hold on. Now I'm looking. Did you actually sign in early?
I signed in around 12:23 in the afternoon today, and I know Jen is trying to track down my response because maybe the form had a glitch when I filled it out.
Yeah, because that's what I just got a text saying that, okay. So with that note, we will give you a one-pass technical glitch and go for your report. But thank you for your
Very
patience.
much. No problem. And I will send the board report link shortly because I do think a lot of specifics will waste too much time. So the Assembly member started this month with a wave of budget letter submissions. Most notably, we were advocating for funding to support NYCHA, settlement house programs, our NORC programs, CDFIs, and more. The specific amounts, please refer to the board report. Afterwards, we went into Lunar New Year. This is the year of the ox. And in the Assembly member's remarks to the legislature, she highlighted the rising tide of anti-Asian hate crimes and how we must work together to make our communities more inclusive to all cultures. While we have not been able to physically come together for the celebrations that we normally have for Lunar New Year, but our hearts are not limited by distance, and together we wish everyone here a healthy and safe year ahead. The Assembly member also held her annual legislative and budgetary town hall in mid-February. The link is now available on YouTube, and it is linked in the board report. And this month will continue to be busy leading up to the budget deadline on April 1st. I will continue to grind through that. And as always, please feel free to reach out to me if there's any questions and concerns. And thank you so much, Tammy, for making the accommodations, and have a great night.
Well, no problem. I think we will be leaning on you and Gail Brewer and others to understand how we can manage to get community input into the World Trade Center site, considering that it's no longer what once was city property, and then private property is now belonging not to us in the neighborhood. So we do have huge concerns on how to get community input. So listen carefully. I'm sure we're going to be knocking on your door and Gail's door and everybody's door for that one.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you. All right. So I don't see any other questions or comments from board members. So let's get moving on. Do we have quorum? I am going to assume we do have quorum. Lucian, Diana, Lucy, yes.
I believe we do.
Tammy, I'm seeing 30 sign-ins, so that would indicate quorum.
Perfect. All right, then let's do an adoption of the 2021 minutes. Do I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
So moved.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second. I second.
Thank you. I'm going to assume all in favor. Do I hear any nays, recusals, or abstentions? Okay. With that, January 21 minutes pass, and let's take it to our district manager, Lucian Reynolds, for his report. Thank you, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tammy, so much. So I have a very brief update for everyone, just starting from just after our last full board meeting. On January 28th, I joined Tammy and Pat on a walking tour of the distinct areas of focus surrounding the proposed safe haven at 105 Washington Street. The tour was organized by CUCS and the representative, and was a very productive walkthrough, and CUCS is better prepared to return to the Quality of Life Committee meeting to discuss more in-depth considerations and neighborhood priorities. Shifting gears a little bit to the newsletter, lots of really great developments for that. The newsletter readership continues to grow. You may have noticed that over the past 2 weeks, our Director of Land Use and Urban Sweetai has been writing updates on developing land use issues and environmental protection issues. This is a great service, and I recommend anyone who wants to keep up on CB1 land use and environmental protection issues to sign up and read our newsletter every week. It'll keep you informed. It'll give you access to all the important links, reports, calendar dates, and so on. And it's just a really great resource. As always, we love suggestions from board members and the public, and whenever possible, we want to incorporate feedback. So if you have any ideas for the newsletter, if you have ideas of how to make it a better read, please do send those along. We have incorporated lots of great suggestions, and we'll continue to do so. So with that, I leave it back to you, Tammy. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you so much. We're going to move into my chairperson's report. It's a busy time in CB1, as everybody knows. You can see here It is cold. We look towards spring. The top two pictures are Wagner Park as it currently exists and a picture of what it will look like eventually. We've been talking a lot about Brooklyn Bridge, about the banks, about the construction, and let's move into my chairperson's next slide. Okay, so in the meeting, thank you for those who participated in January 28th economic impact of changing market conditions in housing, where we partnered with several of the community boards. This is a goal that I hope to continue throughout the time that I am chair, where we partner with other community boards and we can really develop holistic planning in terms of what works for CB1 and understanding what's happened in other community boards as well, and having more of a partnership in Manhattan. So thank you for those who attended. And this really goes into understanding, for example, how the governor's proposals now will fit in with this. Governor's Island held the Climate Center Goals Design Guidelines hearing. There was a CPC hearing for Governor's Island. We submitted testimony regarding 240 Greenwich after our land use meeting, so thank you so much. The mayor's office testing and tracing, thank you. Francis Curtis goes now all the time, or Mariano or Pat, and you can hear those updates at the Quality of Life meeting. At Borough Board meeting, obviously, we have the Hudson River Park Advisory Council, the Conservancy Board meeting, and the Downtown Alliance Board meeting. So as Lucian mentioned, newsletter, important things. If you looked at last week's newsletter, you would have seen the inclusion of Assemblymember Glick's testimony, Nadler's testimony as well on Governor's Island. We're starting to tag these things in a weekly and current basis, so I don't need to go over them here. You can find that resource and read it. We are still collecting feedback on public access from the community. So if you work downtown since 1981 and you have had access to 240 Greenwich to go get lunch in there at any time that it was open to the public, please send us a note. You can go to Man One or to our planner, urban planner, Diana Sweetie. We have put together a repository of information and have been sharing it, okay? What we have coming up starting for 2021 is a more frequent touch base with the Department of City Planning. Alice is one of the people who's championed this all along, and this month we do start that. So I'm super, super excited to say that hopefully we'll be caught less on the tail and more ahead of it. Know what's coming down the pike for us. Which goes down to the City Council legislation with the public hearing this week. We provided written testimony, and basically it's ridiculous that they're going to try and do something without actually having as full of engagement as they did on the zoning for coastal resiliency, where they met with every single community board and resolutions were had by every single community board. It is unbelievable to me that you would pass a city council legislation that changes the way that land use is done without community input at that detail level. The governor's proposal to convert commercial to residential, the language was updated this past weekend. It's super important that Community Board 1 is included. The Downtown Alliance in their board meeting today alluded to the fact that we've had 4 permanent closures of hotels in Lower Manhattan and 10 temporary. So we have a lot of real estate and a lot of need for affordable housing. There is so much potential. But again, much like Gail said, we want affordable housing, we want it in the district. We don't want the pathway that he has in there. Which brings me to the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resilience. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, there is a virtual open house on Thursday. And for people who are wondering, oh, do I really need to go? What does that mean? Please take a look at the slide photos. One is the flyer for the meeting on Thursday, and one shows the potential conversations that have. I won't even say how it links over into Two Bridges and these types of zones. This is just the conversations happening currently in Community Board 1. On land, minimal, meaning build out into the land, the ocean rather, and rivers, and wider. So take a look at that. If you have any thoughts on that, please go to the virtual open house. We've sent out notices on that. You can drop it into the chat again. But I really think that this is all of Lower Manhattan. This is not just This is not just one building, one area. This is all of Lower Manhattan looking around into the Battery. With that, next slide. Okay. How many people have their camera on at a meeting? I'm asking, nicely as the chair. Please, we'd like to see you. Our virtual world continues. Please turn your camera on. In March, we have a lot of upcoming things. Howard Hughes will return with more updates. Governor's Island budget proposal, the governor's proposal for affordable housing, resiliency, Battery Wharf, congestion pricing. We are hoping to have an update from borough-based jails for a schedule of NAC and CB1 meetings. 240 Greenwich follow-up. Under the Brooklyn Bridge, there's so much discussions to be had there. And then the city council hearing of Governor's Island in April. I guarantee there's more youth and education stuff that I did not add in here and more park stuff that I did not add in here, including, you'll see an article in the newsletter this weekend, so take a look at that. And Tricia has her hands full with the current changes as middle schools reopen in person this week. So with that, I thank you very much, and I'm closing my chair report. We'll go committee reports, and I am at the end. If anybody has any questions, I'll take them during my exec report. Oh, let's see. Alice is, of course, going to tell me what I forgot. I'm sure. Hold on a sec. Tricia, you're up first. Tricia, you can unmute yourself.
Very sorry. Hello. We had we do not have resolutions, but we had important discussions this month. Food bank volunteers are needed for this wonderful organization, EV Loves NYC. They provide meals to those who need them. They have a really wonderful and unique approach to how they do this. They're very active on social media. You can donate to them through Amazon and a million other ways. But they came to us looking for young volunteers. So we have connected them with our PTAs downtown. We're still in the process of doing that, actually. And we expect to stay in close touch with them. If anybody has more questions about how they can help this wonderful organization, please reach out to the office or to me. I can't say enough great things. Then I will move actually to the middle and high school admissions deadline so we could stay in misery just a little bit longer. They have extended it to March 1st, but honestly haven't provided any additional information that I think people were hoping to receive through that extended deadline. It has indeed, as Tammy said, been a challenge. The upshot is the middle schools are keeping their geographic parameters, but letting go of their academic parameters for admissions. And the high schools are doing exactly the opposite of letting go of the geographic parameters and maintaining the academic screens. They found this logical, and we are doing our best to help families navigate this. The CEC has done a great job of communicating with families if they have questions. You can reach out to, they can connect you with the DOE if anybody has questions still about this process. And, we had, as you know, a resolution asking not to change anything. So far, we're hearing everything has been okay. And we're hoping that that stays the same. I guess we won't know much until, next year. But as of right now, that situation is holding steady. Our Millennium High School definitely will not be prioritizing children below Houston Street as they have done since the school started after September 11th. And to answer a lot of questions I've received recently, we do not know if this is going to stick. They've only said that it will be for this year. I hope to hear about next year soon. So families can make their plans. The last item is the Harbor School. I was going to raise my hand, but every single elected official has written letters regarding the Harbor School's pool. We are concerned that the pool is going to get caught up in this ULURP. And I spoke with several of our elected officials about making sure to divorce the conversation about building site 515 for the pool, which is the only site that's going to work for the pool because of water tables, a million other issues. And they have done a lot of, spent 5 years vetting this. So everyone's been so responsive. I'm really appreciative and going to bat for us right at this moment, actually, for Site 515 on Governor's Island, which is the old hospital building, if anybody doesn't know it. I want to thank, all of them, Margaret Chin especially, for, advocating for that and making sure it doesn't end up one of those amenities that's a promise of space down the road. That was our biggest concern. So I wish I had an update tonight. I'm hoping to get one, as soon as the end of the week, but that's moving along. It's a village, another one that's going to be a village. It's not on my agenda, Tammy, but I just want to say Trinity Place School construction is still on schedule. I got that update.
That's perfect. It's always good to have good news, right? All right. With that, thank you very much, Tricia. Look forward to next month. And we're going to move on to Pat with quality of life. And Pat, I believe you are the first roll call resolution of the night.
Yes, we are. So our resolution, the governor has proposed a conversion of commercial buildings and hotels to housing, but our community has not been included in that proposal. So we have many empty buildings, both commercial and hotels. So our proposal is, our resolution is basically saying that we want to be included, number one, and we also, there are aspects of this that we don't like, we'd like to change. We will be revisiting this, but we wanted to go on record this month to just say we haven't been included. We want to be included in the area that's going to, where they're going to look at buildings to be repurposed into affordable housing. And also, Gail Brewer brought up something that we do agree with, which would be a good proposal, is that the housing should be affordable so that members of our community who have lived here can stay here, young people, older people, and also that we can house some of the homeless population. So any discussions? Has everybody read the reso? Shall we vote on it?
I had my hand raised.
I can't see.
Oh, can I talk?
I will, I looked away for just a second to double check something. Pat, you have Colin as a hand after Jeff, so Jeff goes first and then Colin. Go ahead.
Sure. I wanted to raise the point about infrastructure as it relates to increased residential population. As many of you remember, after 9/11, when there was significant residential conversion of office buildings after 9/11, our infrastructure was bursting at the seams. And so we spent a ton of our time on the community board dealing with lack of schools, lack of green space, lack of emergency services, community centers, and so forth. So I was going to suggest to add that concept in this resolution. And I had two suggestions as a potential friendly amendment. One would be a whereas, and the whereas would read something like, additional residential units in a community are beneficial if there is sufficient infrastructure, e.g. schools, green space, emergency services, retail, libraries, community centers, transportation, etc., either in place or in process that can accommodate additional residential population. And then I would add a be it resolved on that same point that would read something like, that any residential conversion under such a plan be conditioned on a determination that sufficient infrastructure in the community exists or is in process.
I totally agree, and I've mentioned that also, Jeff, that we need to have the infrastructure to support additional housing. I would accept it. As I say, we're going to revisit this. This is not the first time. I don't mind if it's included in this reso. I have no objections to including it.
Okay.
Jeff, could you do me a favor so we can make the secretary's life a little bit easier? Can you email it to me in the office, and I will make sure that I copy and paste it up onto the chat so people can see that.
Okay, so your email is the one we get emails from you?
Correct.
Okay, sure. Okay, will do.
All right, awesome.
Sorry, Tammy,
So
just
what's
to clarify,
Colin?
you'll put that amendment into the minutes, or are you going to send it to me to put in the minutes?
I'm going to send it to you, my dear.
Thank you.
But I didn't think you wanted to call your email out, and I know Jeff has mine.
I'm not going to touch that. I think my question's been answered after just reading it. This might be a stupid question, but I want to know who voted against it and why, if they're willing to say.
I'm sorry, Colin, I'm on my phone, so I'm sorry. Just say.
My question is kind of evaporated, but I was just curious as to, you know what? Never mind. I'm good. Did it.
Okay, good. Moving on.
Anybody else?
Justine has her hand up. She's next. And if you've already spoken and your question has been done, please put your hand down.
No, I support Jeff's friendly amendment. We are, I hope, going to take this cause up again in the next meeting because there's a lot more to add to this resolution. But as we talked about in our meeting, it just, nobody objected to it as far as I recall. I'm trying to see, I can't fold up to see, but
doesn't make a difference.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, we're ruling on it. Anyhow, I also agree with Jeff's amendment, and we have to go further. But hopefully we'll go further in the March meeting. So thank you.
That's it.
Okay.
Anybody else?
No, I do not see any hands up. And for people who are in the public area, and if you have your hand up, I do apologize because during the business session, we do not recognize members of the public. If you are here and you're listening, we are very grateful for your participation. Feel free to chat the host if you can, and the host will do the best to try and help you.
As I said, though, housing is a complicated issue, and we will be, especially affordable housing, we will be revisiting it. Borough President Brewer just gave us some contacts and when she spoke to us, so we'll be reaching out to them to have some discussions. So shall we vote on this reso with the amendments from Jeff?
Call to question.
I second it.
All right.
It's roll call.
All right, everyone. Brittany will be joining us soon, so I will be filling in for her in calling the roll. Yes. So remember, I want to hear your last name and your vote as we go through the list, starting with Amoruso.
Abstain.
Amoruso abstains. Burton. Blank.
Abstain.
Blank abstains. Brown Kennedy.
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Brown Kennedy, yes. Thank you. Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Thank you. Cassell.
Cassell, yes.
Thank you. Chang.
Chang votes yes.
Thank you. Chapman.
Chapman votes yes.
Thank you. Charkoudian.
Charkoudian votes yes.
Thank you. Cole.
Cole votes yes.
Thank you. Kucha.
Kuchia votes yes.
Thank you. Cunningham.
Yes.
Cunningham votes yes. Curtis.
Curtis votes yes.
Thank you. Flynn.
Flynn votes yes.
Thank you. Francoeur.
Francoeur votes yes. Thanks for taking this up, guys. It's important.
Thank you. Friedman.
Friedman, yes.
Thank you. Galloway.
Galloway, yes.
Galloway votes yes. Thank you. Goldstein.
Goldstein, yes.
Thank you.
Skip me, Lucian Fruman.
Did I really? Hold on, I'm sorry, I did. Mr. Froman.
Yes.
My apologies. Thank you. Gupta.
Gupta votes yes.
Thank you. Jesse. James. Joyce.
James, yes.
I'm sorry, James?
James, yes.
James, yes. Thank you. Joyce.
Joyce votes yes.
Thank you. Kay.
Kay, yes.
Thank you. Cannell.
Cannell votes yes.
Thank you. Kettering.
Kettering, yes.
Thank you. Coppell.
Coppell, yes.
Thank you. Clementis.
Clementis, yes.
Thank you. Lamory.
Lamory, yes.
Thank you. Lerner.
Lerner, yes.
Thank you. Lewinson.
Lewinson is yes.
Thank you. Mahoney.
Mahoney votes yes.
Thank you. McHugh.
McHugh votes yes.
Thank you. Meltzer.
Meltzer votes yes.
Thank you. Mahalski.
Mahalski, yes.
Thank you. Myhawk. Myhawk.
Myhawk votes yes.
Thank you. Monjovi.
Monjovi, yes.
Thank you. Moore.
Moore votes yes.
Thank you. Schneck.
Schneck votes yes.
Thank you. Starr.
Yes.
Thank you.
Laura.
Starr, yes.
Yeah.
Sung.
Song votes yes.
Thank you. Tedesco. Joe Lerner, please mute your microphone.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Tedesco, yes? Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, I just need to confirm. Callie Tedesco, yes? Okay.
Absent.
Okay. Wade.
Wade, yes. Sorry for being late.
Oh, hi. Okay. I'm just going to finish this up and then I'll.
Yeah, no worries.
Weinstock.
Weinstock, yes.
Thank you. G. Mr. G. Okay. Zelter. And that's it. Madam Chair, Pat, I hand it back to you.
Thank you. So before I continue, Francis, would you like to give any updates on the COVID-19?
Sure. No problem. Basically, the the state of the city's response to COVID-19. We had a brief presentation by Pauline Ferrante from City Department of Health, and she reviewed the wonderful website that they have set up, which is NYC COVID-19 vaccine, COVID-19 and vaccine. You can get a lot of good information from there, but the bigger issue is the fact that the whole system is in flux. There are 3 levels
I will
of
when I go back
governmental
into the
control.
office. But you can hold it for now.
There are 3 levels of governmental controls over this whole pandemic, which makes it very confusing for people because you get different information and you have different controls from each level of government. There's something from Cuomo, there's something from the federal government, and there's something from the city. And in terms of the levels of access, the hospitals, the pharmacies, the clinics, the doctors, and the private entities, the most important thing, if you are looking at receiving some kind of service from any one of those entities, the important thing is to understand which government controls they're under, because everybody has something different. And that's why I say this whole system is totally in flux. And in every task force meeting that I go to, the Manhattan Task Force, the citywide task force, they're asking for some sort of overall playbook, which I don't know if it's ever going to happen. But bottom line is the whole system is in flux. That website for the city services is very good. I don't know really what the state, what if I don't, I'm familiar with the state's website, and I am not familiar with, well, the federal government is the CDC. I think, and there's two other things that are very important that people should keep in mind is that vaccines and tests are free. I've had several people ask me about payments and stuff for vaccine and testings, and like the except the situation like we heard from in the public session, the Susan, her that test is not covered by insurance, so that is a private rapid test that's not covered by insurance, but it's also funded or run by the state. So there is like an example of the flux and confusion, because she's got the mobile test that's run by the state, and I'm sure, and they have other, the city has their testing sites, and the federal government has their testing sites. So again, it is very confusing, but there's not supposed to be any cost for the vaccine or testing itself. What hospitals and clinics and doctors' offices have done and are doing. So if you hear it from people, oh, I had to pay, or they wanted my insurance, is they're trying to get money wherever they can, and they're charging administrative costs. But the actual vaccine and the test does not there is no cost. Because this is so in such a flux, and it's constantly evolving and changing. I think that monthly we'll be doing a little piece at the beginning of our meetings so that people, can get more information. And we're also looking into having someone come and speak about the vaccines, because there are some people that are still hesitant about shouldn't I, and with the variants, and a lot of other unclear information about the vaccine, and shouldn't I. So we're going to have someone come and speak about that as well. But if you get anything out of what I just said, it's that the whole system is in flux, and and all I can say is you just have to look at the level of government that is giving you information in terms of the service that you're looking to receive. Okay, so, and if there's any other questions,
any other questions, I highly recommend that people come to the Quality of Life and listen to the Health and Human Services report at the committee meeting. Pat, Francis used a lot of your report time, so you've got a small.
Okay, I'm gonna. Main thing, we have a new captain at the first, Captain Smith. He came, introduced himself. There's been a slight uptick of crime in our community, which I've heard from quite a few people. He came and explained what was going on. Out of the 4 shelters that we have in the area, there have been some reports, but none of it has been major crime. The shooting you've heard about have been from civilians at the Artemis Hotel at 24 John Street. Main thing is February 25th at 6 o'clock, there is going to be a community council meeting with the police, and I suggest that everyone, or those who can, please come. If you'd like to get on the list to come, there's a phone number. If you're ready, I'll give it to you. It's 212-334-0640. Call in, get your name on the list. They'll send you the link to join in that meeting. Again, it's February 25th at 6 o'clock. We had our report from DDC. They come every other month to tell us about infrastructure projects going on in the area. If you are interested, please come every other month. They'll come 2 months from now. You can hear about what's going on. We heard about Water Street. They're going to be building a new plaza at Whitehall Street, and refurbishing and building part of a new plaza at Coenties Slip. Tammy, I knew that there was something, I hadn't been to that meeting, so I didn't know there was some design issue coordinating between that project and 7 Water Street. Which committee should people come to hear about that?
We asked EDC to come back. We'll figure out if they're coming to land use or coming to transportation. There's a sincere crossover because of how they interact with the enclosures of the POPs and the streetscape. So stay tuned. Look at the March agendas is going to be my answer.
Right. Okay. I think it was in more detail, but I think that's it for now. Please come to the Quality of Life Committee. Thank you.
Again, Pat, thank you so much. Frances has already done her Health and Human Services Subcommittee. The most important thing I took away from Frances's report was free tests, free vaccines, sign up and get one. All right, and on that note,
can Pat, can you post that number in the chat? I wasn't able to get it for the precinct. Sorry, for the first precinct.
212-334-0640. Lucian will post it also.
Yeah, and I think we also sent out a note to the full board talking about the next meeting coming up. So we'd really like if people get involved in the First Precinct Community Council. If you remember, it was one of the places that Anthony served, and I am not taking a role there because I think that roles should be spread out a little more than me. I'm not quite sure how Anthony managed that and CB1. So I highly encourage everyone and anyone from our board who would like to volunteer on that board, let us know. And
it's the best way to report any crimes or any what's going on with the police.
Exactly. And with that, we'll move transportation. Betty?
Thank you. If you want to go to the next slide, I'm going to give you some pictures to recap the resolution, which we have one. This is about getting access and safety pedestrian ramp users, which is better known as curb cuts. This is our photos that I wanted to show you. This is me. So from my height, this is how high the car is. It would be the one to the far left. There really is no line of sight with traffic. As you can see across the street, it's available. No one's parked in front of it. If you go to the next slide, you'll see that usually it is parked in front of. And this is, we have somebody from the DOE on the left and we have somebody from the NYPD on the right. It's always parked up. You can see the cars sitting there with all the stuff collected underneath because they're there for long periods of time, rendering it useless. In this case, you can see the Pepsi delivery. They also couldn't get access to the curb cut to make the deliveries to the bodega, which is right next to. This is Stuyvesant High School here on the right. But also you can see the little van coming around the corner on the picture on the left. That is going to Brookdale, which is an assisted living center for elders. There are a lot of people with wheelchairs right by this corner. This is a problem and it's been well documented. A lot of T intersections in Battery Park City. This resolution is talking about three specific rules of the DOT. 2 of them are listed here. City issued parking permits. They do not list parking in front of curb cuts as a place they aren't allowed to park. Same thing with city owned vehicles. They are not excluded from parking in front of curb cuts. If you go to the next slide, you'll also find this is for everybody else. Where the green circles are, those are technically legal parking places in front of those curb cuts, which are where we just were before. So in fact, anybody can park in front of curb cuts if it's near a T intersection, unless there are traffic lights or stop signs all around, which is very common. And next, the other therefore be it resolved is about talking about at least put in crosswalks, because crosswalks are not always put in front of curb cuts. And again, you can see how invisible the person is who's sitting there when you look at even this small white car is blocking the vision line. There is a law, there is a rule in place about crosswalks. Right now, you're supposed to yield to pedestrians that are in the crosswalk. They are contemplating changing it to, they intend, DOT does, to change it to you must complete a stop and stay stopped while a pedestrian crosses the road. Nevertheless, so hopefully the other therefore be it resolved was that the crosswalk would at least also help people who are using these crosswalks, these curb cuts. So if there are any questions or comments people would like to make before voting.
I'm looking to see. I see a hand up by Fern.
Oh, I see Fern.
Yep. Fern, go ahead.
Sorry, that was a mistake. It was from the last one.
Okay, no problem. Then I guess you'd like to call a vote or someone.
I'm going to say call the question.
I second.
Brittany, welcome back. You're on.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And next slide, I just have a little bit of updates to do. The 4 blue dots are where the DOT, where City Bike is planning on putting in new City Bike stations. So this was the update, was specifically about just these. The installations that DOT did check out, all of the sites where there were concerns. The Water Street and John Street, which wasn't particularly a concern, actually is going to be delayed because these could be installed at any time now. This one is delayed indefinitely because of construction that has caused a bus stop to be moved and would interfere with the site. So we can exclude that one for now. Spruce Street and Gold Street, there were questions about, but in fact, it is going to be on Spruce Street itself. It is there for the hospital. The workers want it and use it. So there were no objections within the committee on that. So to clarify that point, that's that. Fulton Street and Pearl Street. People asked because it was a POPS is where they're installing it. It is a one-year pilot in that location, and the DOT has an agreement with Rock Rose, who is the owner of the POPS. So that's the feedback on that particular location. And for Albany Street and Greenwich Street, the final 4 of the 4, they found adequate space for the current parking lane, in the current parking lane, so they will be going ahead with that one. Again, if World Trade 5 construction should start, that would probably interfere with this one. Nevertheless, those are the updates. And thank you, that's all I have to report on.
Okay. Moving along, Mr. Hill. Patrick, welcome for land use. You're up.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Great. Okay. Our first item was a resolution, a very non-controversial item. It's a what I'll call a minor permit to modify the maximum building height, minimum rear yard requirements, and minimum distance between legally required windows and a rear lot line. This is all connected to a one-story enlargement at 42 Walker Street. I think of particular note is that this was already reviewed by our Landmarks Committee, sent positively to the Landmarks Preservation Commission. LPC approved it. There were no changes since LPC's presentation, and our committee had no problem with that. So with that, call the question and see if anybody has any questions, and then call the question.
Sorry for calling down on my looking for hands job.
Thanks.
I see no hands.
Great.
So I will say, let's call the question.
Second.
Brittany, you're on.
Okay. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Hold it.
Okay. Go ahead. Are you opposed? Joe? I'm not sure. That was an opposition.
Yes, I'm opposed.
Okay, got it. Thank you. Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay, thank you.
Second item, we spent a lot of time hearing from a representative for the city council, and you all heard a little bit tonight from Gail and from Tammy about Speaker Johnson's legislation around, it's called Planning Together. It is meant to be the idea anyway, is a holistic, comprehensive planning overhaul and planning tool for the city. But like many things, it comes with a host of issues. So here's how the presentation started, with an issue of what the council feels are key issues, and a summary of those. You know, when I heard this presentation, I'm editorializing a little bit. So at the risk of that, it reminded me a lot of the borough-based jail system in terms of there are a number of key issues or problems that have been identified, a problem statement that has been identified, which is not to minimize the problem statement that generated the borough-based jail system, but the way that it's presented reminds me of that in a lot of ways, in that it's presented in a number of points that are hard to refute. So it sounds like a great idea on its face, but as they say, of course, the devil is in the details. So if you go to the next two slides, we're talking a little bit more about what the program itself envisions, and sort of how comprehensive planning in and of itself would work. And the next slide, planning framework overview, really gives you a sense of the 6 key steps and the 6 key ideas that the legislation would try to achieve. That there, and I'll summarize these in a very overview fashion, which is to say that communities would come up with sort of overarching planning goals, and future applications would work to fit within those goals. Now that sounds reasonable and laudable, but again, there are questions around exactly how does that work in ULURP applications? How does that work to give community boards a voice? Of course, we're always concerned on the land use committee about the amount of time that we have to consider any land use application, but especially major land use applications that have borough-wide or citywide impact. And it's not clear from the overview that we got. Again, I'm not saying it's not clear ultimately in this program, but in the first presentation that we got, there were a lot of questions that seemed left unanswered. And applause to the committee members of the Land Use Committee who asked a lot of great questions. One question I had was a little bit more basic than the good work that my fellow committee members did, which was when will this legislation be called up? When we hear a little bit more about it? And we got sort of a not quite yet response. Then lo and behold, a couple of weeks later is the first council committee hearing on it. I think Tammy referred to it, but just want to draw everyone's attention. If you haven't seen it, there's a chairperson's letter to the city council expressing our concerns over any effort to fast track that legislation. We think it's a big deal, and we want to understand a lot more about it. Any questions on that?
No, I'm just going to add, Patrick, that a copy of my
please.
letter will go out with the Friday newsletter. So
Thank you.
Everybody will have a copy of it if they want it.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, we have a long-awaited further update on the borough-based jail system and the Manhattan Detention Center project from the mayor's office and a complement of city agencies, some of whom we've seen before, MOCJ, DDC, et cetera. And it was helpful to hear from them, but we learned that as I think we're getting the message, we're getting the hint. A lot of the work from here on out, it is the mayor's office's intention to do that work through the Neighborhood Advisory Council, and we'll be sort of consulted after the fact, which is discouraging. But at least this time we were able to get a little bit more information, and we were able to get specific answers to specific questions that we had out there. Disappointingly, we didn't get answers to all of our questions, and one of the common refrains was, as Committeeman Marte referred to earlier in his public comments, the pending litigation rather with the Neighborhood United Below Canal Street folks and other community organizations, which is up on appeal. So we intend to keep on this. We intend to keep pushing this. One of the headline items I heard was that from the presentation was that this is going to be delayed by approximately 2 years, but that they still plan to go forward, and that they still intend to do what is their version of engagement. So anybody questions or comments on that? If not, that's it for land use, and thank you.
Holy smoke. No, nothing in it. So thank you, but everybody understand that the conversation will come back to land use next month, and we will do a resolution next month, and we'll be asking, the letter from the chair basically said, how could you kind of consider passing legislation without going to the community first? Okay, Jason, welcome, Landworks and Preservation.
Hi, hello, good evening, everyone. Good evening, can you hear me?
Clear.
Yep. Wonderful. We had one application, and it was for the Tin Building, which was, as everybody knows, it was relocated further towards the water during the whole redevelopment of the South Street Seaport. And this was also a project that's been trying to be realized almost as long as I can remember hearing projects on the community board. So this is from way back, maybe right after Sandy. It was a concession that was really blocking some of the nice views out to the east of Brooklyn and the bridge in its former location. So Howard Hughes came back with the Parks Department and the vendor and found a new home for this pergola kind of outside cafe. And we generally thought, and we generally really appreciated that they came back for maybe the fourth time with another option, with an option that maybe is located in a place where there's a lot of blockage already of the water views from Manhattan. So I think that that was part of the appeal to the board members when they presented it this month. I felt it blocked the building a little bit, but otherwise we were unanimously in favor of it, I believe. And I'd say it's finally not controversial at this point. So we recommend voting to approve it.
Okay, so if you're ready, then I don't see any questions.
Yeah, I have my hand up.
Sorry, Paul, I missed you there.
I wanted to offer what hopefully is a friendly amendment. In the resolution, you state that the revenue generated from this concession is intended to go to the Parks Department. I think a much more urgent and important need is the South Street Seaport Museum. It clearly, we're making all kinds of other decisions with that in mind. I mean, some of our electeds are supporting inappropriate towers just to get them more money. And unfortunately, there's been a long history of the museum sort of getting screwed by EDC and other players in the seaport and not getting the revenues they've been promised. So while I'm certainly sensitive to the parks and their needs, I chair the Parks Committee around here, I still think that we should go on record recommending that the funding go to the museum. I think there are much more, as I said, urgent need. So I do have language if you want to hear it, but that's the gist of it.
Well, I'm personally not against that idea. I didn't write the resolution, and I guess I would say yes, but I'd leave it up to the board to, I'd love to hear just what anybody else thought about that, because the parks need it too. I don't want to leave it up to me.
Okay, well, let's see if there's other hands up. Oh, there are a ton of them. Well, there we go. So we'll go Alice, Mark, Susan, Justine. Alice, you're first.
Okay, hi. It's an admirable request, Paul, but I'm not quite sure about it, only in that, the Parks Department at this point gets 0.05% of the city's budget, and God knows it suffers tremendously as a result. And my understanding of this pavilion was that it has to be maintained by the Parks Department, or is this entirely Howard Hughes? I'm a little confused on that. But if the Parks Department is at all involved in its maintenance, and I know they're involved in the adjacent maintenance of the adjacent building, rather, they could well use the money for that. So it's nothing against supporting the museum, but that does seem like a channel that might be difficult to arrange. But additionally, I just think the Parks Department needs the money too. So anyway, that's my thought on it.
Okay, and keep going. Who's next? Mark Russo, Susan Cole, Justine, Joe Lerner, and then I'm gonna comment. Go ahead.
I like Paul's idea. Why not give it a shot? See what happens. It can't hurt to put that language into the resolution. I don't see how it hurts in any way. Good idea, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, Susan Cole, you're next. Justine, and then Joe.
I happen to agree with Mark and Paul. I think it's not a bad idea. You could say 50-50 if you wanted to compromise in some way. I don't know, it may be pennies we're talking about. I don't know what we're talking about. But I think it's a good way for South Street Seaport to get something. I think Paul's point is well taken.
Okay.
I think I'm next, and I would agree with what Susan is saying. I was going to say split the difference. Go 50-50, because especially if the Parks Department is doing some maintenance there, it makes some sense to have them get some of the money. But I really do like the idea of the South Street Seaport getting some of the money in existence. So 50-50 is my vote.
Okay, Joe Lerner.
Okay, look, everyone needs money across the city. So Paul, it was a great idea and I'm for it.
Okay. Awesome. So the ones, I think I see no other hands. Unless you would like to go again, please put your hands down. My only comment that I'm gonna bring up is, Paul, we need to see the language. And I'm a little confused because this is a landmarks approval, not PDC, not parks. So I think that I'm uncertain whether or not this belongs here in this resolution. That's my one comment that I'm unclear on, because our resolution is going to landmarks. This is a landmarks review. Landmark will not rule on where the money goes. It has nothing to do with them.
Well, that wouldn't stop you from writing a separate letter if the board deems it appropriate to the agencies that are in charge of the concession.
Which would be something different that we have to probably vote on as new business. See hands up, and then somebody's went up and down. I'll look for it again. Betty?
So I was just wondering, who is in charge of the concession? Because I really believe the money should go where the responsibility is.
I don't think, Jason, do we even know that?
Who's in charge of it? I think that, I got the impression that the person that was trying to run a business out of it was in charge of it. In charge of maintaining.
I can't believe Parks is going to maintain their concession. That's not how concessions generally work.
It's a private concessionaire, right?
Yeah.
Jason?
So they own all the structure, they own all the maintenance, they own.
Yeah.
They're building it, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that Parks is going to play any role except to possibly, if they can, to receive some money. Do you want to hear the language I have, or are you just ready to go? Language is not complicated. It's just
go.
What?
Hear it, Paul, because it has to be accepted as a friendly amendment. So let's hear it.
So, following the first four whereases, okay, the fourth whereas where you have the language at the end saying, and licensing fees from HHC would go directly to the parks, et cetera, I would delete that. And then put in a whereas following that reads, while the city is proposing that licensing fees from HHC resulting from this concession go to the Parks Department, and the CB recognizes their need for funds, we do feel that a much more urgent need at this time is operating revenue for the South Street Seaport Museum so that this vital cultural institution at the Seaport can remain in existence and operational. And otherwise, I just removed a couple of words, again, mentioning revenue from parks in whereas 8. And the final be it resolved would read, community board recommends that the
Hold on, Paul. Hang on. Diana, can you put up the resolution, please? Because I'm having troubles with all the changes that Paul's looking to make. I apologize, Paul. Troubles meaning don't understand where this is going. Well, Diana's getting that up. See, so Frank Horn now has his hand up. Michael?
I do. Thank you, Tammy. So yeah, my question I think is just a general concern with the amendment in that I'm familiar with the mission of the South Street Seaport Museum, but I'm newer to this community board, so not as familiar as many. So what sorry, excuse me, frog in my throat. But so what I do know is that the South Street Seaport Museum has struggled a bit. Are we comfortable with the way that the South Street Seaport Museum spends its money? I think there's a certain amount of transparency and faith I have in the Parks Department, and do we in general have that sort of faith in the way that the South Street Seaport Museum operates? And that's more coming from ignorance and lack of knowledge on my part, but that's where my concern is.
Well, if you want me to respond, I would just say that that's one issue that I think there's general agreement on, not so much that they're the best run cultural institution, but that everyone seems to want to get them more money. Means is the controversy. Some people say build the tall tower and let them get revenue from Howard Hughes that way. Others, including this board, have suggested moving the air rights to other developers and things along those lines. So again, the bottom line is we all want to help the museum and keep them operational. As far as I know, yes, there are some people who may have some questions about the museum, but I don't want to really try to cover that. And the truth is, there will be people who will say the same about any city agency too.
All right. I'm going to ask if we can take this as new business, as a new resolution, and therefore take what you've got and turn it into some whereases to go separate. So you'll have one resolution that goes from landmarks to landmarks specifically under the purview, and this would be something different under new business, related but not attached.
Well, the only problem potentially there is that at the very end of the meeting, if you don't have a quorum, that means we cannot address this. And this has been put into business. It's been seconded. I don't see how we can't vote on it, or we shouldn't vote on it from parliamentary point of view.
Well, I'm going to ask for a parliamentarian because it's a parks concession, right? This is not about the landmarks. This is a landmarks resolution. So that's where I'm going.
It's deemed a parks concession. It's a city concession. Okay.
I'm just going to chime in that, Paul, there is actually, it's a concession owned by New York City Parks Department, I'm pretty sure, and I think it is. I think we should confirm that before we write the resolution, but I agree, I think it's a great idea to do this as a separate resolution, perhaps, as out of landmarks.
So I'm going to ask Mr. Kettering or my parliamentarians.
I didn't hear Kettering
Yeah.
chime in, so go ahead, Michael.
I'll defer to you, Patrick, as land use. Chair.
I was just going to say, so I haven't heard a formal motion to amend yet, which is the way we would need to do that. So this debate is fine over whether it should be a second resolution or an initial resolution. But once somebody makes a motion to amend this landmarks resolution and that is seconded, there can be no debate. That shuts down, and then there's a vote on the motion to amend. But what I would say, just from my point of view, is whether it makes sense to put that in a landmarks resolution, whether it's going to get the audience that it needs versus a separate resolution. But that sounds to be the debate. So,
Tammy, I have my hand up. I don't know if you can see it.
Jeff, I apologize. Go ahead.
Yeah, my only narrow point, I'm not expressing a view one way or the other on the museum or the park, but if whether it's a separate resolution or not, or if it's going to be a separate resolution, then we need to anticipate that in this resolution, because this resolution basically says the parks are getting the money and we support that. And so it would seem anomalous to pass a separate resolution that says something inconsistent with what's in this resolution. The only narrow point is we should, if we think there's a possibility of having a second resolution on where this money goes, we should sort of make neutral the reference to who's getting the money in this resolution, so we preserve the ability to have a second resolution.
That makes sense, Jeff.
Jason, does that reflect the committee's work during the committee? So here's the question. You have to represent the committee. We have an amendment that Paul made. Is that amendment accepted, or is that going as a separate resolution?
I'm fine to accept it. If other people think that it's no one objected to where the money goes, and I think it's. I don't even love the Port Museum. So.
Well, so if he accepts it, I think.
Yeah, I think the committee would accept
it and see what happens.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, then there we go.
The question or for the amendment?
Yep.
I do.
All right, so we're going to roll call on. We're going to do a vote on accepting the amendment because I do hear controversial, and then we'll do a roll call on the and then just the regular. So let's just do the amendment vote first. Brittany, you understand? Colin, you understand? We're doing call the question.
Is the amendment as Paul read it?
Yes.
Is the 50-50 part added?
Oh,
well,
Jason, do you have a preference there? I'll get what you want.
I don't care. I just want to know if it's included, because it came up after Paul's amendment, which was fine.
I guess that was a friendly amendment to his friendly amendment at 4 people.
So it's included then?
I would ask that it be included.
All right, fine.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
Terrific.
Okay, can I go, Tammy?
Yep, go for it.
Okay, great. Amaruso?
Yes to the amendment.
We're just voting on the amendment. Thanks. Blank?
I'm going to abstain on the amendment. Thanks.
Brown Kennedy?
oh shit.
Abstain.
Oh,
Cameron?
Cameron, no.
Cassell?
Cassell, yes.
Chang?
Chang votes yes.
Chapman?
Chapman votes yes.
Charkoudian?
Charkoudian votes yes.
Cole?
Cole votes yes.
Kuchia?
Lucia votes yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Curtis?
Curtis votes yes.
Flynn?
Flynn votes yes.
Franker?
Franker's a no.
Friedman,
Yes.
Froman,
Froman, yes.
Galloway,
Holloway, yes.
Goldstein,
Goldstein, yes.
Gupta,
Gupta, yes.
James,
James, yes, on everything.
thanks. Joyce,
Joyce, yes.
Kay,
Kay, abstain.
Cannell,
Snell, yes on the amendment.
Kettering,
Kettering, yes.
Capel,
Yes.
thanks. Clementas,
Abstain.
Lamoury,
Lamoury, yes.
Lerner,
Lerner, yes.
Lewinson,
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney,
Mahoney, abstain.
McHugh,
McHugh, yes.
Meltzer,
Meltzer abstains.
Mahalski,
Mahalski, yes.
Myhawk, Myhawk, okay. Monjovi,
Monjovi, yes.
Moore,
Moore, yes.
Schneck,
Schneck votes yes.
Starr,
Star, yes.
Sung,
Sung, yes.
Wade, yes. Weinstock, Weinstock,
Sock, yes.
okay, thank you. And do we have Myhawk? Okay, perfect.
Oh, Chief. Ozzy. Or Zeltzer.
Oh, he's out.
Okay. All right. So with that, that passes. Then we can just do a, for the landmarks, we could just do an all in favor, abstention, or recusals. And so I'm going to say, Jason, with that, are you ready to call the question?
The question, I'm ready for that, for the resolution.
Okay, perfect.
Second,
Awesome. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Brown
Any
Kennedy,
re-
abstain.
Okay, thank you.
Mahoney,
Any
abstain.
recusals? Oh, okay, Mahoney.
Meltzer abstains.
Okay.
Concur
Any
also
other
abstains.
abstentions? Brinker, okay. Okay, any other abstentions? Recusals?
Sorry, blank abstains.
Okay, got it. Any other abstentions, recusals, or oppositions? Okay, thanks.
All right, back to Jason's slides. Anything else, Jason?
Just, hello, everybody, and thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Jason. That brings us to licensing and Susan Cole. Did I lose Susan?
Sorry. First thing I'd like you to vote for is this executive order. And basically what we are asking is that no permanent outdoor dining be done without really setting up relevant agencies to coordinate and to make sure that the community is involved, that there be something akin to a process like we do for the SLA for licensing. We've met all kinds of problems with this. We're not saying we're against it, we're for it, but there has to be some uniform system and some uniform agency or agencies in coordination working together. And that's basically, and we all worked on it, and there you see it. And if there are any questions, I'm willing to take them.
Looking in the chat, I think my question is, do Paul, Joe, Jeff, and Colin still have hands up last? If so, put your hands down. All dropping like flies. Okay. I see no questions. Mr. Lerner, do you still have a question? I'll take that as a no. And Susan?
I'd call the question, please.
Second.
Okay. Any abstentions? Any opposed?
Mahoney is opposed.
Okay. Okay. Any recusals?
I think Koulamentis needs to probably recuse on this one. Sorry, Bill.
Oh, no problem. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. Any
Brittany,
others?
Jeff Mayhawk is here. I don't know why he didn't vote last fall.
Jeff? Are you having issue? Are you having? Oh, I know why. Because his audio is not connected. He's having troubles doing audio because I can see that through WebEx.
Thank
So if the host, I'll try texting him, but he's there. I see him. Jen, as host, can you chat Jeff and work him through his audio issues? Okay. With that, I think the vote's on next, Susan.
Thank you. So
Yep.
I'm going to ask you all to, if you haven't read 181 Duane Street, I'm going to ask for a special kind of situation. 181 Duane Street has a long history. It was Nero's Italian, it changed hands, licenses changed, it was in violation. It became Serenetta, I believe that's the name of it, and a Mexican restaurant that we had numerous complaints that was serving liquor and had people outside it without a license. We had someone come requesting a license and approval, and we set some stipulations, and the committee voted in favor. And we voted in favor, and I began to obsess over this because we didn't have very clear information from the owner, the new quote owner, we think, and he was very unclear even where the building was. It was going to be an Italian restaurant, but he showed us the menu for Serenetta, and then he said, no, it would. He used that menu. So it's all very vague, and we're not sure who the real owner is, and we can't get that information. So I have checked with my co-chairs, and I haven't checked with the committee. I'm hoping they will support this. What I would like to do is I would like to reject this resolution as the board and send a letter to the SLA stating that the reason we are rejecting this, we have all the stipulations and everything, is because we are there is no clarity on who the ownership is, and although we asked the applicant, we have gotten no information on it. And I think that is the easiest way to go. So I'm willing to take questions, but that's my proposal.
All right, I'm looking for hands up to see how we're rolling. I see Mark Amaruso, followed by Colin. Mark?
So, yeah, I agree. We talked about this. Just the language should be written in a way that it's a rejection based on that we don't have the proper information to consider whether to reject it or approve it, and ask the SLA to refrain from a hearing for this applicant until we can have a proper hearing on our end to determine who the owner is and the information that's missing.
Well, Mark, I've done some further checking, and we can't. There's some things we can't always ask for that the SLA is entitled to do. So that's what the purpose for me the letter is, asking them to go and say that we have not been given the information, and we're not going to be given, and I don't know how we can get it, Mark. And I want to put the burden on the SLA. That's really, we're not saying we don't want this business. There's something wrong here.
Yeah, maybe I exactly what you said. I just misstated it wrong. But just the other thing is SLA shouldn't consider it until we get the full information. I guess is the way I'm saying it.
Well, we'll put it in the letter.
Yeah, I just said I didn't say it eloquently. So perfect. Thank you.
Colin, you have a question.
Yeah, and I'm totally guilty of not knowing enough about this. This is my first time I've had eyes on it, and I apologize. But I'm obviously very biased towards small business and their survival. And the last three whereases were, 1, they can't have a sidewalk cafe. 2, they can't have delivery. Sorry, I'm like reading this as I go. It strikes me that you're handcuffing them during a...
Oh, we gave them delivery. I'm not sure. I haven't read the last whatever. The delivery was that we gave him garbage pickup. We did all of that he had agreed to. Nothing in those whereases, Colin, is anything that he did not agree to. And we are, just so you know, the committee really tried to give this guy a go.
I get it. Let me just finish what I'm saying. I get it, but am I wrong? Am I wrong that a whereas says that they will not employ bicycle delivery personnel?
Yes, they said they wouldn't.
Okay, and they can't have outdoor dining or a sidewalk cafe?
They said they didn't want to. They have a particular platform, the way it's set up, that those are all the things they agreed to, that they stated.
Look, I'm not going to belabor this. We all want to go home, but I just feel like this is restricting a business unnecessarily during a time.
That's your prerogative, honest, Colin.
I'm making it, and I feel like you shouldn't be handcuffing people during a time where it's so difficult for them to make revenue. That's my point.
Okay.
Colin, they have a loading dock that's within the boundaries of the building that will act as quasi, not official, but a sidewalk cafe that they can use. So it's like kind of built in already without them having to apply for one, which is risky for them.
It is irrelevant to my point.
All right, fine.
Okay, next, Justine, Sarah, and then Betty.
Thank you. My question is, I don't understand what you're asking us to do. You're asking us to vote in favor of this resolution or against it? That's what I don't get.
Against it.
You want
Against
us to vote no on the resolution?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I'm asking you.
Yeah, because I see and read this, just these whereases, as the applicant is stating these facts, not that you're imposing them on them.
That's correct. But I want to know to take it to the SLA. That's the clearest way to do it.
Okay, Sarah, then Jeff. Sarah Cassell.
As a former restaurant manager, I feel strongly that there's something fishy going on. And looking at everything, I agree with the send letter to SLA.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Galloway.
It's really more of a process question, and I know Susan, you really know this stuff better than almost anybody. But if we vote against the resolution, it's, I think, equivalent to us saying that we don't want to have a say in what's going on there, and I'm not sure that's what we want.
Jeff and I talked about this. He's my guru, the other Jeff, and if we vote yes, the SLA won't look at anything. That's their pattern. This way, with a letter and a vote no, and requesting very specifically and stating some of our issues in the letter, we have a real shot, and asking them to come back to us so we can ensure that the stipulations are met. That's the process we think is the best way to do it. You know, Jeff, it's always a crapshoot. I can't tell you, I know all of this, but like the back of my hand, but we think this is the best way to proceed.
Okay, I'll defer to you guys. You know it better than anybody else.
Okay. So with that,
I call the question. Can I do that?
yes, and I second. Okay, so again, from what Susan said, we're
Please vote no.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, why don't I do it this way? Any approvals? Any recusals? Any abstentions?
This is gonna
Okay.
be.
So everyone's no.
There we go.
Thanks.
Susan, take it back.
Okay. Last thing, two things, please, very quickly. One is that there is a hotel proposed for 456 Greenwich. And what we thought we would have a separate meeting, but it's not going to work. We just did not vote on this. It is going to be a large venue. They could have 1,000 people. They want to. They have something on the roof, and so what we have decided is to have them back at the meeting in March. I thought we would have a separate meeting, but it's not going to work. So we will ask them to come back, all the community representatives and whatever, and we'll see if we can iron out something. We may not have a resolution till April, and they're not going to open to 2022 sometime April to July. They weren't very clear, but it's a very high-end rooms at $20,000, et cetera, et cetera. We were very skeptical, but I'm just letting everybody know. So that's that. The other is 2 Gold Street, which we've had a problem with garbage and the little park there. And the owner's representative said he's checking on it. We've written a letter. I think the Lucian has written a letter, and Diane and people have looked, and we're continuing to look, and we will see where we go with it. But they've been, the last time I went, they cleaned up. Somebody else went and they hadn't cleaned up. So we have to monitor it. And that's all I have to say. The end.
Okay, Susan, thank you very much. Bruce, welcome.
I have my hand up.
Apologies, Mark, but are you commenting on the report?
Yeah, I'll be 30 seconds. On the Greenwich Street and the Brookshire Street Hotel,
Thank you.
that particular venue will completely change the dynamic and the character of North Tribeca, which has been a nice, quiet neighborhood forever. It's not a not in my backyard thing. It will literally reverse the character of that neighborhood. And I think most of the residents that were on the call believe that. So we have to watch this. It's a monster.
So
and to go to your point, Tammy, it has no benefit to the community in that sense. I mean, there may be some small benefit in terms of a new restaurant or whatever, but the large venue has no benefit. Mark is absolutely correct.
Which means that I hope that everybody turns out for your next committee meeting that they return to.
I hope so too. Thank you.
Here. All righty. Moving on. Large venue, which dovetails beautifully into the large venue working group. Mariano.
Hi, yes, we had a brief, maybe 15-minute meeting.
Before you go, everybody remember, Mariano will be part of the event, sponsored with Councilmember Chin for Black History Month, and the flyer is going out because you missed it at public session.
Oh, yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, working group, take it away.
We had like a 15-minute meeting, very productive meeting prior to the licensing and permits committee meeting, discussing what types of things we'd like to see go into maybe like a stipulation similar to that which we use for licensing and permits in general, but just on a larger scale. And we talked about looking into finding out whether there are already any existing guidelines at the, any government level. Maybe they have a number that equates to large already. We're not sure about that. If they don't, we're happy to make large, somewhere about 200, I think we said. And we're going to, at the next meeting, go more into zoning, hopefully, and get some people that are knowledgeable about that to sit with us and help us and have a more extensive, longer meeting.
Sounds good. Do we have any hands up for questions from Mariano? Your hand was up from before. All righty. Thank you, Mariano.
Thanks.
Next. Battery Park City, Miss Kucha.
Okay, wait, before you start counting me, just this talking about Tammy Mariama being one of our own, being honored by Margaret Chin on the 25th in celebration of Black History Month on February 25th at 4 p.m.
Yes, I am. There's 3 of us, and I'm the board, the District 1 selection.
Yes.
There you go. Okay, cool. No,
we've
trying to understand what it was. I was like, wait.
We've sent out a notice. We sent out.
I got one from Margaret Chin too, but I was just wondering.
Exactly. All right, Justine, take it away.
Okay, sorry. I also think my internet's bad, but all right. So Battery Park City, I'll be quick. We have no resolutions. Item number 2 is on from here. Good from the resolution. All right, so the Esplanade pedestrian management for the ferry. We basically had the people coming in to talk about the ferry service that they're putting into place from Staten Island, stop Battery Park City at Brookfield Place and going up to Hudson Yards. And we had an interesting presentation that acknowledged that they are going to be subsidizing the ferry to the tune of maybe $9 per ride. That said, it's going to happen no matter what we say or what we do. And in the meeting, we actually had and heard from people who were in support of the ferry, saying that it's a great way to get around and having more options is better because number one, COVID is you're outside if on a ferry. You don't have to be inside or enclosed in a bus. So that was one thing. Plus, we heard from Betty Kay and some other people who said that for some elderly people and some handicapped people, it's actually a much more accessible way to travel. So interesting pros and cons for it. And that was presented. And then they also promised to come back to us and give us a pedestrian management plan because they don't have one. And they just said, oh, it won't be so bad. Well, that's sort of not an answer, but we've left it with that. On a more positive note, the signage for Oval Park, Pump House Park, Alex Lisco from the Brookfield Place came to our meeting and kind of let us present our preferred wording. He listened to us, he took it back, and he's going to change it. So at this moment in time, I believe there are no signs right there. I don't know. I haven't seen it with the snow. I haven't been outside. But they did take the sign down when we complained about it, blocking. They wouldn't let dogs fine, but they didn't want to have any kind of play. And so we've changed the wording, and I think we'll be good with it. West Thames Street, gardens and restoration of the park. They say that they're so close. The basketball court just needs to be surfaced, but I believe it was that the temperature had to be 45 degrees and it had to be dry for them to do it. So there's a slowdown for that. And then the gardens will open once that's done. Nick promised that open it up. Even if they can't open it up to after, because it will not damage the basketball court if people play basketball on it for a little bit. So if the timing doesn't work out, whether it may open sooner. That said, the weather hasn't cooperated thus far because the snow has kept them from doing anything. One little sticking point was there's scaffolding that's around 225 Rector Place. Was in place as of Sunday. And they said that they cannot remove it because it's not safe to remove it. And they have to keep the scaffolding up because of 225. So that is going to slow down the opening of the walkway, the sidewalk. I found insane, and we'll see what happens because with the snow, they've kind of had a reprieve. Can't get in there to do anything. But as Susan noted earlier, there are 3 little buses or mobile units that are doing COVID testing for $25 in 3 different places in Battery Park City, which is a nice thing, but it is very irritating that you have to pay for it. And that's it.
Tammy,
We never got the Brookdale update. They weren't able to make our meeting, so we did that.
I am here, Tammy. If you just, oh, sorry.
I don't see any questions.
I wanted to make a comment on
yeah.
Justine's report. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment because I really felt bad about the need to be in opposition to the ferry. There's just so many cohorts of people desperate for support and funding for different things that are needed. And, you know, it's not the fault of those who like the ferry. Most of us, you know, myself included, that were in opposition, just felt it was redundant. Whereas at the same time, there are, you know, elementary school age children protesting for amnesty, that their budgets don't get cut any further. We're talking about general ed and special ed. So disabled and non-disabled children, that their budgets are being cut to the point where it's almost impossible to get a decent education. And we have people without homes, and we're looking for funding for so many things. If we have a ferry, another one just seems really, really unfair. You know, I'm sorry that has to pit us against those who make use of it, but you know, we're in a really difficult time.
Mariano, thank you for that, because I actually agree with you. That's my position on the whole thing too. But I thought it was important to note the other side of the other position, because it's a valid point. I do.
Yeah,
think
absolutely, absolutely. I just said there weren't any ferry haters, though. You know, like
yeah, right.
In my observation.
Yes, that's right. Yes, people. No ferry horn beepers there or complaining about it.
Time will tell.
I'm done.
Other questions? Thank you, Marilyn. Let's move on to the next committee.
Can you hear me?
Yes, Bruce.
So thank you, Jason. I just walked in from my second vaccine, which was not so close to home, but I'm here. So there seems to be a maple tree growing out of my left ear. I hope it's not from the second vaccine. Anyway, we only have one. No, I'm just kidding. I'm worried about reactions.
Come on.
We have one.
Bruce, stop.
Oh.
Jason already went.
Oh, because I saw on the agenda landmarks was next. Okay, sorry.
We met earlier. You are all set and taken care of.
Thank you.
And be happy.
Okay.
Waterfront Parks and Cultural, Mr. Goldstein, take us away.
Thank you. And Bruce, feel good after that shot. Okay. We also didn't have any resolutions, but we did have a lot of business. So let me go through it quickly. Item number 1 is called Gateways to Chinatown. Okay, so really it was focused on this one traffic island located on Baxter Canal and Walker Street, which I should note is basically the boundary between boards 1 and 3. So you can move to the next. We did actually take this up in 2019, and perhaps you might recall this was an element that they proposed, that we had a lot of people actually from Chinatown come down, and they didn't really like much about the proposal, especially this element. So the community board also wrote a letter saying go back and make some changes. So the good news is that they did. The community, including us, talked about wanting more planted areas. There was interest in an interactive digital information kiosk. So here we are. That's what they basically came back to us with, a traffic island that has more planted areas. And finally, this major element that you can see here, which is basically a big digital information broadcasting system for people. So we didn't take a resolution on it. We also agreed that since it's technically more in Board 3, that we would defer to them, and they seem to be happy with this. Okay, let me move on to item number 2, St. Andrews Plaza. For those who aren't familiar, that's the plaza next to or behind the municipal building, between the municipal building and police headquarters. For many years, it did have a concession there that served food, but it's been out of business and inactive for 5 years. Bottom line is they're looking for a new concessionaire, and they will let us know and probably hold a hearing on that in the months ahead. So more to come on that. Item 3 was an item that was added at the last minute. It's really an item that has been handled by transportation for additional docking stations to be located on Duane Street. So what happened was I got emails from the people who run a group called Friends of Duane Park, who were objecting to a proposal to relocate these new docking stations for the bikes that were scheduled to go in front of a restaurant on the corner of Greenwich. When that owner objected, DOT turned around and said, okay, we'll put them adjacent to the park. Well, lo and behold, the people at the park thought that was not a good idea for the park. It would interfere with their operations, with their subsurface irrigation system, with trees, plants. Anyway, bottom line is, I think all the parties are now aware of their concerns. I know Tammy is working on this, and again, this is more to come on this, but we just gave them an opportunity to be heard, and I just wanted the committee and the community board to know about this issue. And finally, we had a good discussion about Black History Month. That was started off by Ranger Jim, and he talked, of course, about the African burial ground and what's going on there. But most of the presentation was devoted to the Black Gotham experience. And Camo Ware is the man who's in charge of that. So he gave us a presentation. He has an organization that's located on Front and John Streets in the Seaport area. He's apparently been doing this for about 10 years. And he was very impressive. I found him impressive. Many people who were not as familiar with his group, I think also did. So he does walking tours. He's an artist, so he uses multimedia to tell the story and celebrate the impact of the African diaspora on New York City. And he basically, you know, he's a charismatic guy, very knowledgeable, gave us a lot of very good information about, as other people said earlier, some of the activity that's gone on in this part of Lower Manhattan affecting the African-American population. And I would just urge people to, you could take a look at last week's newsletter. We did a good job highlighting him and his presentation to our committee. And I think he's interested in working with us more. And we, in fact, I forget who it was, referred him to our youth committee. So Tricia, you may be hearing from him, and if we could be of any assistance in terms of setting that up for you, we will.
We have, thank you.
Thank you. So that's our report. Thank you, unless there are any questions or comments.
Well, I
have a hand up.
We have
I have my hand up.
hang on. We're going to go in order. We're going to go in that order, please.
Oh, it's okay. Okay. Yeah, just real quick on the bicycles in front of the Duane Park. It's just an abomination. It's this bicycle special interest stuff just run amok. They're screwing up the city so much, and there's no input from common sense input on what to do here. This is just one example of it, and we discussed this and maybe putting it in landmarks or in complying with quality of life, because that's where it hits home. But it's getting, these bicycle stuff's just getting out of hand. Enough's enough already. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Mariano.
So first of all, I just want to mention as someone who was originally put on to the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council Board to represent the community board, I do want to say that LMCC has an involvement with the Black Gotham experience in terms of space. So I just wanted to give a little shout out to LMCC. But as regards Duane Street, I've been involved in this, and I've been involved with the park group, and they asked if we could put this on the landmarks agenda, and we can, but it should be noted that since the proposed city bike rack will be technically on the outside of the park, technically on the street, even though it was once a sidewalk for the park, that's not landmarked. So, and very few parks themselves are, even if the park itself were. The bicycle rack is proposed for the boundary of the park, not within the park. Also, it should be noted that originally they were going to, as was reported, put the bike rack extended all along the north side of Duane, which would have basically closed Madeline Lanciani, Duane Park Patisserie's business, which has been there for what, 30 years? And boy, is she working hard to try to keep her business alive, and she's wonderful. The proposal then was to put the bike storage facilities in the two lay-bys that were indented for the use of Independence Plaza, which is also no solution unless they agree, because those two lay-bys service, what, 900 people of mixed income. So that doesn't work. I'm just putting it out there that there are so many city bike areas within those two blocks. I do have to say I don't get it. I don't understand the need unless it's financial. And if they do want to do it, they really should do it somewhere else, south of there. There are plenty of other spaces we can identify. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce, and you are correct. It does not belong on landmarks. Okay, moving on. Next, Justine Mariama, Sarah.
Okay, thank you. I'll be quick. I just wanted to shout out Black Gotham. I was so impressed with them. I had not before. I ended up joining them, becoming a member of their group after or during the meeting, and learned, and I think I shared it with some of the folks. There was an article the next day in the New York Times that referenced something that Kamau told us about, something called
the riot of 1863.
Say it again. The what? Draft riot.
Draft riot.
63.
Draft riots, which I had never heard of before, and it was a horrific. I'm not going to talk about it now because it's trigger warnings, but it was a horrific event that occurred in our backyards on Wall Street. It was horrifying, and this kind of history is the kind of that I think that is important that we talk about sometimes. Meeting, not all the time, but I think that it has a place in our community board. I think that recognizing that these things happened and that to address is really important. And I'm so thankful to Paul for having a recognition of Black History Month in his meeting. I think it was wonderful. And this is a group I think we should actually have, when we actually open up for full meetings, if they have the space. They work closely with the South Street Seaport, he said, Kamau said, we should have a meeting there. We should just get more involved with it. But I also have to say I'm a little bit frustrated because I've heard now people in the public session talking repeatedly about the police and their reactions, and they really want to have a forum in which to speak about police brutality or their reactions to police brutality and how to process it. And they feel like there's a place on the community board that they want to bring it to, but it feels like there's no place to come. And
NYPD falls under quality of life. We've
And
discussed this
okay,
many times. The
and,
first
and I will
precinct
speak,
community
but wait, let me
council
say this,
meeting-
Tammy, let me say it. That First Precinct Captain this past week, and these folks were not allowed to speak. And even in the presentations, while the people who raise the issues of crime and knifings and shootings
Justine?
get
what do you
airtime,
mean?
the people who complain about it aren't.
Justine.
And I'm sorry, I'm frustrated by it. They're frustrated by it.
But what do you mean they weren't allowed to speak? I let everyone speak who wanted to speak.
And you rushed them through and you didn't listen to what they have to say. I know it annoyed the Captain Smith, but
we have a huge-
they were very much shut down.
Guys,
and I'm sorry,
let's
but
take this
I felt
offline.
shut
That
down.
is
I felt
not
like I couldn't
related
talk
to what
about
we're
it.
talking about now. Let's keep to the
All right,
focus of the
thank
business
you.
meeting. I'll take that offline. I don't think you should.
All right.
Again, we're not here to cast aspersions back and forth on people, and we will take this up. Mariano, you're next.
I just wanted to say thank you to Paul too. I missed the presentation. I had another meeting to go to, but I appreciated that it was being had. And I also wanted to make people aware that the Black Gotham Experience is pretty much the only Black nonprofit in Lower Manhattan, or in our district at least. I'm aware that we're a minority, an extreme minority, not just African Americans, but Black people at large. So Caribbean and Latin, all of us Black people, we're an extreme minority, so maybe that's why there's not many. But I had friends that wanted to make a donation to a Black nonprofit during Black History Month. A couple, they called me, and they'd already given to Black Gotham previously. So I did a search. An address came up in one of the World Trade Center buildings, which was very interesting, but it didn't have a name that sounded like it was anything that was really operational. So I figured it might be some kind of back office or something. And Google also, for Black History Month, made a widget where you can just click a button and have the Black owned businesses and nonprofits in your area come up. And when I clicked it, Brooklyn came up. So I think that's something we should start to look into as well. And I don't know where that would be, maybe planning. We need to grow.
Okay.
Just a really small point of order here. You may actually want to look into the Power Fund by the Robin Hood Foundation, which my wife works at for about 17 years. They've dedicated about $10 million to donate purely and only to African American led nonprofits in Manhattan. So just thought you might be interested in that.
Thank you. Fern? Fern or Francis? I apologize.
Francis.
Francis, sorry about that.
Just kudos to Paul for having that wonderful presentation. It's nice to hear about the extensive unmarked Black history issues in CB1. And I'm glad that Andrew brought it up, and hopefully he reached out to Tricia, and we'll be able to have some of that education brought into the schools and start teaching the young people here about that part of the experience here in the neighborhood that they live in. But thanks again, Paul.
Sounds good.
Just for the record, thank you to others who also suggested Black Gotham Experience. Tammy certainly played a role in that. Thank you all.
My pleasure. Thank you. I will, let's see who's next. Colin's gone, Justine's gone, Sarah Cassell. Before you go, Sarah, there is one thing I do want to say. I believe Black Gotham is a for-profit, not a not-for-profit. Just so people know, it's a membership-based organization.
Yes, he did say that. So
Exactly.
anyone who wants, but you still could send him and become a member. I did.
Exactly. Exactly.
Hi, and it appears that Fractured Atlas, which is a not-for-profit, you could donate to that, earmark it to supporting Black Gotham, but it's technically donating to Fractured Atlas, which is tax deductible. not Black Coffee. So
Correct.
there is a means to support them through a donation, but it's not directly to Black Coffee, to Tammy's point.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Awesome, Sarah.
I just wanted to support Francis. I thought that that was what I felt should happen too. My son went down here and learned nothing about Black culture. So, and about the Black history. Didn't even know there were slaves in New York. Honestly, he did not. I'm beyond, speechless. Anyway, so that might be something that we take up in Youth and Ed. So
Exactly.
thanks.
Thank you, Sarah. And just, so everybody understands, my thought is that this is how we move forward, is that the conversations about Black history do not belong in a singular committee, but they belong, like all history, across every committee. So this is why we don't need one committee to figure this out. It needs to be ingrained into all the committees that we do business with. And on that note, I think I've gotten everybody's hands up. Paul, do you have anything else or can we move on?
That's it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, Tammy, can I make one more comment?
Sure, absolutely.
Since you're talking about cultural history, one of the things I did in my previous life was I was in charge of all the cultural committees at DC 37. So I know every year, every month, what's happening with, and we're coming up on March, and this is Black History Month, but March is Women's History Month, and it's also Irish Heritage Month. So I think that if I will sit with Lucian and go over the calendar and pick out those things, and we'll try to incorporate that, because I think that's good. We should have a larger breadth of our whole community.
Exactly. Francis, nominating you to help us with that newsletter. You can tell the work we've done this month on Black History Month has been really great.
Good.
And that's part and parcel to, the work that Lucian does, but it can always be enhanced with the outreach that we have and the information. So Francis, you're on, and then you can also work with Paul so we can have other, waterfront parks and cultural. I don't, we have amazing cultural institutions in Lower Manhattan, and we should have them all come.
No, absolutely. I agree. Okay, cool. I'm good.
Thank you. Moving on to the next committee. Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
Blank.
Thanks, Tammy. Good evening, everybody. Speaking of newsletters, just a shout out to Lucian, Diana, and Lucy for those extraordinary newsletters. And Tammy, I guess I don't know who's behind them all, but they're really incredibly informative. Anyway, I'm going to try to condense a 4.5-hour meeting with over 900 participants last night into my 5-minute allotment. So we'll start with 250 Water Street, the Brownfield Cleanup Program update. Laura Dodge, who's the president of XL Environmental Resources of the community's independent consultant, updated the community on the remedial investigation report at 250 Water Street, answering questions for close to 2 hours. Certain detailed questions that were not answered in the meeting were provided to Laura, and the responses will be put on the CB1 website along with the entire report when it comes out. Laura assured the community that the report was, quote, done well, and that there were no, quote, worrisome findings. Concerns were raised about air quality issues, the potential compromise of structural integrity of neighboring buildings, the disposal of water and soil on the site, the scheduling of the work, noise, and a main concern that this work be done only after the final design of the building at 250 Water Street is confirmed and entirely approved, to avoid doing any of the remediation work twice. The findings and explanations were very detailed and will appear in her final written report to be issued very soon. No serious threats were identified, including the presence of elemental mercury over allowable amounts. And I want to thank Children First for bringing this important issue to the community's attention. Laura made clear that during the next phase of the work, which is the remedial action work plan, it will be critical to assure careful monitoring of this work and that the work is done thoroughly. So the committee has voted affirmatively on a proposed resolution to have Laura Dodge continue to work on behalf of the community as an independent contractor to oversee the next phase of the Brownfield Cleanup Program work. And you see that resolution before you, which you
I think only got today. So if you want to take a quick look at that, I don't think it's controversial. And I also want to thank Howard Hughes in advance for their consideration for funding this next review of the work by Laura Dodge. So if I can get a vote on the, a second on this resolution.
Seconded.
And could we take this to a vote?
Yep. I don't see any hands. I love that fact. So Brittany, take it away.
Okay, awesome. Any abstentions?
Is this the last vote?
Amoruso abstains.
It's not the last vote.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Amoruso abstains. Any other abstentions? Any opposed? Any recusals? Okay, thanks.
Okay, Diana, you got some slides there, I think. So I'm going to launch right into the Lower Manhattan Coastal Resiliency Quarterly Update was provided. As Tammy informed you, the virtual open house is tomorrow. I encourage everyone to go. It'll probably be very, very comprehensive from 4 to 9. And I think everyone's received the information. So Jordan Salinger from the Office of Resiliency, Will Fisher from the Economic Development Corporation, and many other representatives, many various other reps from EDC and Parks gave a summary update on the Battery Park City plans, the Battery Wharf project, and the FIDI Seaport plans. It was noted as this board continues to do, that there was no plan in the works for the west side of Lower Manhattan, north of Chambers Street. And I just want to note that we're pleased that Jordan Salinger of the Office of Resiliency is willing to try to arrange a meeting to engage potentially with the Army Corps, the state DOT responsible for Route 9 and others on this issue. So what you're seeing here is the Battery Park City update of the North and West Battery City resiliency, 30% completed, nothing of consequence or new reported here, but we will of course receive updates soon. Next slide. Right, so as you all know, or you might recall, the ballpark construction is Battery Park City ball fields are going to be, I think it's imminent that the construction will commence, right, spring in 2021. And so we'll follow that. That has been all approved. Next slide. And the Battery Wharf work has begun again after the pause with COVID, and the construction is to probably begin in 2022. We learned that the Battery Conservancy has been engaged on this and is in support of the plans, which we hope is accurate. A more in-depth meeting on this will happen next month at the EPC committee, and we'll look forward to inviting Wari Price of the Conservancy to this meeting. Next slide. The FIDI Seaport plans were presented, and here are their planning goals for 2021, which is to determine the extent of the shoreline extension, key here, the conceptual design, the roadmap for financing, and the permitting strategy, and a creation of a drainage plan. Next slide. And I might remind everyone that, of course, all of this, the links to all of this is up on our website. So what's been accomplished in answer to the community's concerns for a more adequate understanding of the science behind the plans, there's a review of the work, including aquatic sampling, wave modeling, tidal analyses, water pumping and storage solutions that are noted. Next slide. The Office of Resiliency confirmed in response to CB1's request that the plans will fully assess if on-land options is at all possible, an assurance that the plans will minimize siting new infrastructure in the water and mitigating impacts with the work constructed in the water. Next slide. The 4 study areas that I imagine most of you are aware of, going from A to D, are noted here. Next slide. I think Tammy had this slide up earlier. So here are what are the early options look like on land, minimal and wider. And that's what that is, and I think we need to follow it very closely. So please, again, come tomorrow to Thursday rather to the meeting. I will say that I was pleased to hear from Will Fisher of EDC for a promised follow-up on a detailed understanding of the funding of the various Lower Manhattan coastal resiliency projects in Sandy, including federal, state, and city funding, to kind of assess what's what have we spent, what is to be spent, and we've been promised a meeting on this financing for next month. I think it's a public meeting, actually, not just for this board. Okay, so then we had a detailed presentation by Gwen Dawson and folks from the Battery Park City Authority on the South Battery Park City Resiliency. I think some of us were rather surprised to hear that it is 95% done. So what you'll see before you, albeit rather schematically rendered, is what we will be probably getting. The EIS is in progress. There's been no mention of a timeline on the pavilion, which arguably looms quite large here, but one would assume that is all part of these plans. Next slide. So it's important to thank the Battery Park City Authority for their work in updating the community over these many years since we've started to look at this. But I have to say, and we went on record to say we were quite sorry and frankly disappointed to see that very few of the points that the community board has asked for in our 4 resolutions over these past 4 years on the proposal were fully addressed. The CB had opposed, among other things, and questioned the need for redoing the park at all, but this we realize has been accepted. But a few of the items that were remained open that were not addressed were to include a revised entry to the pavilion from the ground level at Battery Place, the reconsideration of the size and placement of the maintenance area, reduction in hardscape of pathways, and the addition of a designated bike path. And I just want to recognize it's a very difficult design. It's not trying to be critical, but it would be important that we can, whatever we can gain still in the last period of time here would be much appreciated. Next slide. So the design included a nod to questions about sustainability and with the promises for zero carbon certification of the building itself, and confirmation that the wedged guidelines that are presented by the Waterfront Alliance will be met, including, I hope, touchdown sites to the water, which I think might be happening near Pier A, which needs to be confirmed. Next slide. So we only were given one slide of the pavilion, which was concerning, but so it's difficult to sort of really ascertain what exactly is happening here, but there is a nod to making sure that the pavilion is truly sustainable. Next slide. So there's a vast amount of information. There are over 100 slides, I think, but I mean, last night, not tonight. But one of the areas that was very important that we asked them to look at very carefully was the area entering into Pier A. And the one thing that we really want to stress going forward is that the Battery Park City works with the Conservancy, the Battery Conservancies, and others on the proposed plans for turning Pier A potentially into a ferry landing point, which they have not yet done. And I think that's something that we feel is critical. So to make sure that the Pier A, if it does become a ferry point of access for the ferries going over to Liberty and Ellis Island, that it works. So I think we have to make sure of that and look after that. I'm not going to go into the details of the plans, but I will say that, as it's hard to see it, but on the right, you can barely see ghosting in of very large portions of what, you know, these very, I don't know, it's hard to probably identify large columns that are part of the floodgates and many features that aren't really showing up on these schematic plans, which I think at this point, given it's 95% complete, should be shown. Next slide. This was another area that was presented, which was the entrance to the battery, and the dark gray lines, and on the right, the very sort of large flood alignments are walls that will be there, but we didn't see any perspectives of what that'll look like, but you know, I'm sure it'll work. Next slide. This was an area of great concern to many of us. The Battery Place area, where you would come up to the building. Right now, that's when you come in, they're directly access to seeing the sight lines to the Statue of Liberty, of course. And as you know, there will be no further visual sight line or physical access in the new park from the ground level to see the Statue of Liberty. And so the required access to the pavilion and the view to see these things, one has to ascend to very long ramps at approximately 100 feet long. So if you look on the left, you'll see that plan and you'll see the alley of trees. That will be the way to get up. And we had asked that they look much more carefully at a way to enter from ground level off the street. And unfortunately, that did not get resolved. And so, alas, the only way in, if I'm not mistaken, is up these very long ramps. And I would say, just on a personal note, I sadly think of my recently departed father who could never get up that 140-foot ramp in the, let's say, rain or cold. So anyway, it's something that I guess is a fait accompli, but I don't know if it is, but it's something that we still wish could be looked at. Next slide. So that's an example. So that area that's shown up in red on the left is the area we're talking about, which is now a service entrance. So as you walk by the street where you currently see the Statue of Liberty, you will now be greeted with the service entrance to the building. And in fairness, they have made a great effort with wayfinding and opening up of the plazas to allow that it's very clear that you come up the alleys, but not to offer an alternative route into an elevator or something that is more inviting and obvious. Something like, for example, at the Met, where you have a large stair up, but you also have a way to get in off ground level, seems odd. But anyway, that's that. Next slide. And that's a look looking north along Battery Place. And next slide.
How many more do we have, Alice?
That's it, almost. This is looking south. And the only thing I'd say here to Tammy's the point she raised, and also Michael Frankauer, which is these views are missing bikes. In other words, we had asked, as another point that didn't fully get addressed, was the need for a bike lane. And thankfully and very kindly, Gwen Dawson has promised that will definitely be reviewed again. So that's it. Any questions? I'm done.
Okay, I've got Paul Goldstein and Justine. Paul, is your hand up for this?
Actually, it really was about the first report, but I don't think you saw me, and it wasn't about the resolution. So anyway, during that report, and as you just mentioned, that Laura also made a point of the issue of it not being a very good idea to break open this site and do this very extensive cleanup without an understanding of what was going to go to replace it. In other words, where there could possibly be a period where they would have to recap it and then just open it up again.
Well, but we don't know what their plans are yet. So we need to hear what the plans are and see the final report. I didn't, she had said there were many options of how to manage it. So.
Well, let me just say that is a concern in the community that I've heard from people.
Absolutely.
And I know that a letter was also provided from NYU, a professor in clinical environmental health, had a lot of concerns about that particular issue. So I think we have to really keep a close eye on that and make sure that that's not the case.
Yeah, I think it's a really, Paul, and I did note it just moments ago that was one of the main points, was the concern about having the building, the design be finished and approved before any work was done. And I think that's a point that everyone would second.
But you don't think we need to go on record saying it?
Certainly, we could go on record saying it. I think probably the best approach would be to have first see if she can. I think the first resolution that we have here is an important one, which is to keep her engaged on this project, and then to go into some of the finer points, which we're just beginning to get from the community. So I think that yes, we should go on record. I don't know about tonight.
Also, not tonight clearly, but if I remember also correctly, we were waiting for an update from Howard Hughes on what their plan would be, because they have not confirmed either how that's going to happen. So they heard, I think, very loud and clear what the community preference was. So now we need to hear back from them.
And it's not just what Howard Hughes is going to propose, it's whether the city is going to approve whatever they propose.
Right.
We're definitely going to take up a resolution in the committee, Paul. Yeah, we will.
Thank you. Alice, thank you. That was really great presentation. Just a question. So for the Staten Island ferry and the Ellis Island ferry from
not
that
Staten
ugly
Island.
white tent area in Battery Park to Pier A?
What I
no, go ahead.
I reported out last night, Justine, was
Statue of
that,
Liberty. Sorry, not Statue. Yeah, Statue of Liberty. Sorry.
So the Battery Conservancy is looking to move the Statue of Liberty ferries with the, their tented area. They're looking to open up their walkway and see if it was possible to move the ferries into Pier A. That is what the Battery Conservancy would like. The Battery Park City Authority has not made any comment yet on that. It is something that needs to be taken up in Paul Goldstein's committee, maybe with as a joint thing with Pier A, with Transportation and Battery Park City Committee, because it affects all three. We're talking about, ferry boats. We're talking about loss of Pier A, and we're talking about how the park would operate. So it is a topic that we need to do some dialogue and outreach on and see what's happening. I think that it should probably be done before the Battery Park City Authority makes whatever final determination they're going to make, so we have a chance to opine and weigh in. Again,
that makes sense.
For April, take a look at Paul's agendas.
Okay. Okay, now, but I'll pick up with you to get what you're saying. Connection. Thank you.
You're welcome. Next committee. Okay.
You, Tammy.
That's me. What do you know? And also, by the way, read the newsletter, because the newsletter has stuff like that in it. So make sure that if you've got some questions, read the newsletters. Okay. We had a really robust dialogue for the municipal elections and polling sites. If you're interested in helping volunteer to find polling sites in Lower Manhattan that could be used for early elections and long-term elections that do not involve the schools, that might want to have the Board of Elections there, certainly let the office know, and we can circulate that information. We had a great presentation on composting Lower Manhattan by Earth Matters, which is somebody we have supported for a long time, and the composting and green recycling issues. And then budget cuts. We have a resolution. If we can put this one up, this is second to last. We will not take them together because the next one is going to be roll call. Anna, can you put the budget cuts for community boards? So while we are working for as much public engagement as we can, one of the things that we all know as the 50 board members is that we can't do it all. We certainly can't do it all without the offices and the resources that we have. With budget cuts and everything being as they are, and with the city seeming to enjoy putting things so far down the pipe that we are beyond busy in a normal way, we are objecting to the budget cuts that came to all the community boards and asking them to restore funding to the 59 community boards to prevent degradation of the community participation and reporting of critical issues out. It's very simple and straightforward. Does anybody have any questions?
Call the question.
Thank you.
Second. I second it.
So
Sorry.
that's okay. We're good. Brittany, you're gonna do a call. I will need Chow, who I see on the call now, to be vocal in your vote only because we're not here before. Okay, Brittany, take it away.
Wait, sorry, just to clarify, are we doing a roll call for both, or I thought we were just doing budget cuts?
It's just because it's similar, but since now we're here in the meeting, we want this vote recorded.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we just need to create a transcript record, Brittany.
Okay, so any oppositions? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Okay. And who is it that you said again?
I see from the sign-in sheet that Chow's here. That's
Yes,
it.
I'm here.
And
Okay.
and do you vote yes?
Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I think that takes us to the last one. I love moving fast. Come on, got a goal tonight. All right, this is we have heard dialogue and discussion about many memorials. One of the last places that we heard it was a dialogue that was perhaps the governor was thinking about putting a memorial of some kind to essential workers in Baton. And I just think that CB1, and yes, somebody on Borough Board already took our resolution after we said it Wednesday night. So I do think, much to Colin's point about how, where we talked about ticker tape parade, somebody was taking our notes from the community board meeting on Wednesday because it came up in Borough Board. And basically what we're doing is we're saying that we're calling upon New York State, New York City to work together on a design competition to allow New Yorkers and the world to have a place to honor the loss and sacrifice, and that it should be carefully selected to honor those communities who unjustly bore the brunt of the pandemic. That doesn't mean it needs to be in one place. It means it could be in many places. It could be people need to think creatively. This is not the generation that we have of people that, is all about street naming and plaques. I mean, there's a world of technology, a world of innovation. Let's find something really unique. And let's not be limited by the boundaries of City Hall and Battery Park City. Hands up, Colin.
Tammy, I read the resolution. I think it looks great. I don't care either way, but I would love to work in a way that basically said, we would be honored to have something like this, but we think there are other communities that are more deserving of this than better. Something like that, so it doesn't get smacked back at us. Does that make sense?
Yes, that's kind of where we were going.
Yeah, it could be a little stronger there, but whatever you think.
Rephrase what you just said.
I'm not sure. While we would be honored to host any such memorial, we believe there are communities around New York City that were more deeply affected than ours, or something like that.
Perfect. I accept that. Jeff Myhock.
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I would just say that we are absolutely the wrong community to host this memorial, as the community that was literally the least affected of any community in all 5 boroughs. There's no way it should be in Battery Park City. I just would say that.
We literally just covered that.
That's why we're doing it this way, because we want to just cover it all ways. I don't disagree with you. It's sort of like mind-boggling. Okay, let me look for other hands. In seeing no other hands.
Can I call the question?
Yes, roll call. Let's go, Brittany.
Okay. Amarissa.
Abstain.
Blank.
Blank, yes.
Brown Kennedy.
Brown Kennedy, yes.
Cameron.
Cameron, yes.
Cassell.
Oh, yes. Cassell, yes.
Chang.
Chang votes yes.
Chapman.
Chapman says yes.
Charkoudian.
Charkoudian votes yes.
Cole.
Cole votes yes.
Kuchia.
Kuchia votes yes.
Cunningham.
Cunningham says yeah.
Curtis.
Curtis.
Airman.
Oh, Bruce.
I'll come back. Flynn.
Flynn votes yes.
Franker.
Franker is a yes.
Friedman.
Friedman, yes.
Froman.
Froman, yes.
Holloway.
Galloway, yes.
Goldstein, yes.
Gupta.
Gupta, yes.
James.
James, yes.
Joyce.
Joyce, yes.
Kay.
Kay, yes.
Cannell.
Yes.
Kettering.
Kettering, yes.
Capel.
Copel, yes.
Clementis.
Clementis abstain.
Lamoury.
Lamoury, yes.
Turner.
Yes.
Lewinson.
Lewinson, yes.
Mahoney.
Mahoney votes yes.
Q.
Q, yes.
Meltzer votes yes.
Mahalski.
Mahalski, yes.
Myhawk.
Myhawks, yes.
Jovi.
Yes.
Moore, yes.
Schneck votes yes.
Star, yes.
Hung.
Yes.
Wade, yes. Z.
Z, yes.
And Weinstock.
Weinstock, yes.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I highly, highly, highly urge you to go and listen in tomorrow on Thursday. I cannot tell you enough. Do not be surprised when somebody comes back to you and says, wait a minute, they want to build out to the end of the piers and infill it. If you don't go and you don't listen, then don't complain later. Just the only thing I can say. All right. And with that, also, if you have friends and family, not family, but if you have friends who you think would be great community board members, I think the deadline is this week still. So hurry, hurry, hurry. If you know anybody who is looking to get a grant from the Borough President's Community Grant Program, hurry, hurry. It closes soon. Please look at the newsletters. Please turn your cameras on and let's do the best we can. And with that, at 9:18, thank you so very much.
Pretty
Thanks,
good.
Tammy. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.